gentlemen, let's go. We ain't got no time to waste. Let's go. You are now listening to Jason Anderson, and you are in the zone.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, on Monday edition of The Zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock the next 4 hours. We've got you. A lot of stuff to get into today. Busy show today. We will hear from the Kansas City Chiefs coming up at 11 o'clock, maybe a little bit before, maybe a little after. You'll have to stay tuned and see when we head up to St. Joe. We will hear from Andy Reid and assembled players. We'll see who else is at the podium today. Do we have an idea of who is going to be speaking and talking today?
We do.
Great.
Good news on the injury front, because the Chiefs don't usually put guys out who aren't pretty healthy and pretty active.
Okay.
And that could apply for all three of these guys, as Isaiah Pacheco is scheduled to talk today. Tommy Townsend is scheduled to talk today. And no injury issues this preseason process yet, but Trent McDuffie, the third player expected today, obviously. Dealt with injuries last year, looked really good so far in camp. But Pacheco, maybe in that yellow jersey, maybe. I don't think I've seen that he's ditched that yet today. So probably still a non-contact press conference for Isaiah Pacheco.
And Lebo said full pads, so might be closer to 11:30.
Okay. Full pads today, so stay tuned for that. So we'll hear from the Chiefs today, Andy Reid, Isaiah Pacheco, Tommy Townsend, and Trent McDuffie. We will also talk coming up at noon with Ari Temkin. SiriusXM College Sports does a great job covering the Big 12, and his area of expertise and coverage has now expanded along with the Big 12 and all of the crazy conference realignment that's been going on. We will talk with him about what he thinks the future is, the new Big 12, things like that, and how crazy last week was and how crazy Friday morning into early afternoon was. From momentum of Washington and Oregon to the Big Ten had slowed. There was an 11th hour attempt to sign a grant of rights with the remaining 9 schools there in the Pac-12 to stay together. They could not, quote, land the plane on that. And immediately after that was over, the Big Ten, Washington and Oregon started talking. And then, of course, once that happened, Arizona State, and Utah joined Colorado in being the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th.
Well, how many teams were including
14, 15,
here?
16?
14, 15,
so they
16.
were 14, 15, and then 14th, 15th, and 16th.
Yeah, who gets to
teams.
claim like the last admittance into the union? Is it Utah? I think it's Utah, right?
Utah, they were the most reluctant. Arizona's number 1. They were the ones that won. Colorado was number 13.
Definitely, no question.
Arizona was number 14.
What number was Colorado the first time, by the way?
It's a great question. I actually don't know.
See, they were like 9 and 13 now. You lose your spot in line.
You do, actually.
I think you do. I think that's right.
Once you got out of line and went to the Pac-12, then you now slide down to the 13th member of the Big 12 ever.
So Colorado's 13, Arizona's 14. They just
Arizona State 15.
They grabbed Arizona State by the collar, so they're 15 behind them. They're a kid on a leash. They don't want to be there, but they're there now.
And Utah was like, there's something to salvage here. Ooh, we hate BYU.
Some of my friends went there.
All right, fine,
Yeah,
fine,
sure. Okay.
fine. I guess we will join. Just stop calling. It's becoming annoying. Thank you. So there you go. So we'll talk with Ari Temkin coming up at noon. We'll get into some other conference realignment talk because it's always fun. Also, Mick Schaefer will join us coming up at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. He'll be up in St. Joe, hanging out there with the Chiefs. He'll be St. Joe camping today with the Chiefs. So we'll talk with him. Learn Funniest Best, presented by Pyramid Roofing. That'll come up in the 1 o'clock hour as well. 913-912-4810 is the text line, 913-912-4810. Text line to join us to be a part of the show. if you want to weigh in. You can certainly do that. 913-912-4810. Texas, if they go to 16, rebrand to the Big Eights.
Ooh.
I like that one.
Maybe just the
I like it.
Big Eight times 2.
I like it. All right, so let's get into the show. 913-912-4810. Coming down on Friday, news breaking that the Chiefs would be dealing with even more issues on their defensive line, and that is Charles Omenihu was suspended 6 games by the NFL for a violation of the personal conduct policy, and, trying to figure out all of the different ins and outs, the details, the intricacies of a personal conduct policy, a domestic incident versus domestic violence, and the number of games suspension that goes along with that. After the Ray Rice incident and all of the pushback and the criticism that the NFL received, they did institute a domestic violence minimum 6-game suspension for the first offense. The second is a lifetime ban. Willie Gay was given a 4-game suspension where the NFL wanted 6 and the NFLPA wanted 2, correct?
That's right.
And they came to an agreement of settling on 4. And I'm going to guess the distinction was property damage of a domestic incident versus Omenihu being accused of placing his hands on his girlfriend.
And I actually, after now the last hour of digging through this, I have found this phrase here from the NFL personal conduct policy, where this is from the 2022 revision here that I've got.
Okay.
A first violation will subject the violator to a baseline suspension without pay of 6 games, with possible upward or downward adjustments based on any aggravating or mitigating factors. And I will say, just having not, gone through each line of the CBA and just thinking about the Willie Gay suspension and the little bits that we had heard of the Omenihu suspension, my starting line was at 4 games where Willie Gay ended up, because we haven't heard all that much about the Omenihu thing. And there may be a lot more details that we just never saw get public. But 6 games surprised me.
I don't know if it surprised the Chiefs or not. I don't think it should surprise the Chiefs.
Probably not.
Because they are as aware of all of the different policies, domestic violence, domestic incident, personal conduct, etc. All of those levels that are there and escalators, mitigating factors that may go into those discussions, and what Roger Goodell and the committee would pass down in terms of the number of games. I don't think the Chiefs should be surprised with 6 games. I think maybe they were hoping it was less, but an understanding that it could be higher, baseline being 6. At one point, I did think there was a minimum 6 games, but, I mean, obviously you can, maybe negotiate those certain ways.
With possible upward or downward adjustments gives you a lot of wiggle room.
And the NFL, with the allegations that are there, was not willing to have any wiggle room and going with 6 games. This is the same as a Frank Clark, a Willie Gay. It should not come as a surprise to the Kansas City Chiefs. While they may have been surprised that Chris Jones did not show up to training camp, this should not have been a surprise. It wasn't a surprise to you and I because we discussed it a number of times with the defensive line that, well, you've got Charles Omenihu, and then you and I have talked about that, if or when the suspension comes down for Omenihu, does he miss 2? Does he miss 4? Does he miss 6? How many games is he going to miss? Who's going to have to fill in? What's the level of Felix and Udike-Uzomah? We've talked about that from Carlos Dunlap and signing him. Chris Jones, the contract negotiation, all of that stuff. This was before training camp and sort of an assumption that was there and being able to utilize guys in different places. Mike Dana, the way that he had played. Malik Herring offers some versatility inside, outside to move around on the defensive line. The different options that are there. But it didn't come as a shock. Like, oh my God, he was suspended, because you and I have talked about it a number of times on this show about what will happen to the Chiefs if, and an expectation of when, that those things that this decision will come down.
Yeah. And it leaves them in such a terribly thin-looking place. I'm just staring at the depth chart, and even having talked about this a number of times, 6 games is a long time. The first 6 games is tough if you're Felix Anudike-Uzomah, who maybe still feels like you're playing catch-up on the offseason portions of the program that you missed, and you are going to see a starting lineup not just in week 1, but through the first third of the season, where pending Carlos Dunlap, who should be in Brett Veach's office right now, just Mark Cuban style, just barricade the doors, don't let him leave. Chris Jones, we got to get you figured out. Carlos, keep our number, please. You're talking about second-year George Karlaftis and a really solid player in Mike Dana as your starters. Then your depth after that is a rookie in Felix Anudike-Uzomah, maybe a rookie in B.J. Thompson. Maybe it is Malik Herring. It's Chris Jones working outside some?
Yeah.
Well, he's not here right now either. If the Chiefs had to play a meaningful football game tomorrow, I would be mortified about what they would do to that front four.
It would be, well, if they had to play a meaningful game tomorrow, Turk Wharton wouldn't be up to speed.
Also, yeah, good point.
So you would have George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, Derek Nottie, and
Daniel Wise, baby.
Daniel Wise?
I think so. Keandre Coburn. Yeah.
But Nottie and Coburn are sort of redundant. So, you don't have anybody to make up for Chris Jones at that spot. You would just have, 2 guys that are, gap fillers in Coburn and, Derek Nottie. And then Malik Herring, maybe a B.J. Thompson, maybe Josh Kando. A lot of blitzing from Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah.
Obviously, Felix Anudike-Uzomah is there. I'm not trying to ignore him.
Sure.
It's just there's a feeling right now that he is behind. So if they were to play a game right now, Kando would have more experience. Malik Herring more experience. How much does FAU actually play? Like when, what's the level of responsibility that they can put on his plate, on his shoulders to go out there and compete and make a difference? And so, yeah, right now, luckily, it's still a month to go. Luckily, 4 weeks from Thursday that this team will take the field. So there's time to get Chris Jones figured out, time to get Felix Anudike-Uzomah figured out, and time to get someone who's not on this team right now figured out, and maybe a Carlos Dunlap or something like that. Maybe that is part of the plan. I will just say that it felt like all of last year, Josh, part of the plan was that Melvin Ingram was going to be signed at some point.
Yeah. Right.
And it just did not happen. And you've got, over the weekend, Yannick Ngakoue and Justin Houston signing contracts, and they are off the board for free agent players. So kind of feels like there's a Carlos Dunlap, maybe.
Unless he's like that, I don't have the Justin Houston deal in front of me. It was a solid 1-year deal with mostly guaranteed money. That makes me think that maybe and Justin Houston had a much more productive year last year than Carlos Dunlap did, but Carlos Dunlap was legitimately still a good football player last year. This would not be bringing in a husk of a name you remember. But man, the 2 paths on this that just get so lit up in neon for me right now is, one, they have a lot riding on Charles Omenihu. We knew this going into this conversation. We knew they were going to be putting a lot on his shoulders because he can play inside, outside, and because that edge depth is just thin right now. Like anybody that you have penciled onto your 53-man roster is going to have to play a huge part in that defensive end rotation just because Karlaftis can eat a bunch of snaps out there. But again, we've seen Mike Dana. We all really like Mike Dana. You do not want him to be your number 2 defensive end. And then FAU, everyone likes the ceiling. There is some legit explosiveness in there that could make him a weapon in passing situations. But you don't want to be forced to put a rookie in that spot, specifically for a guy that, like Karlaftis last year, he prototyped to be, hey, if you're average at the things you're good at the NFL level, right there on the edge, you're not gonna get us in trouble there right now. It is just a worrisome group in that regard, amplified right now. This is the second path for me by the enormous impact that Chris Jones has, because if you replace Chris Jones with an above average NFL starter in that spot, this defensive line drops from above average to below average just by moving him off of that spot. This would be a wild time to make a huge trade. This would be a wild way for the Chris Jones in Kansas City era to end. But I am really struggling to figure out where the line in the sand has been drawn that has gotten us now into the week before the first preseason game when Chris Jones is still not in training camp. And I haven't heard that things are getting better. We played that Diana Rossini clip last week that, hey, everyone sounds like they're going to get it figured out. They're going to get it figured out. We'll get there eventually. It's August 7th, and the Chiefs' defensive line just lost what I imagine would have been their second or third most important member for the first 6 weeks of the season.
The other question I would have is, one of the reactions, and this goes back to, I think the Chiefs were expecting a suspension of some sort. Maybe they were surprised by 6, but there was a level of expectation that 6 is a possibility. When the news came down on Friday, I saw a lot of the reaction of, 1, you better get it done with Chris Jones now, which makes sense. 2, boy, Chris Jones just gained extra leverage, which I don't agree with 2, because that would be if the Chiefs were totally caught off guard.
Yeah.
If Omenihu was arrested on Friday or something,
Sure, yeah.
then it would be, oh my goodness, now Chris Jones just got even more leverage. Again, this has been expected by the Chiefs of some sort, some suspension that was going to be there. So while they are going through their negotiations with Chris Jones, both sides know that Omenihu was facing a suspension of 4 games, 6 games, maybe more, depending on some of the details that the NFL had in their investigation. And the details they found, apparently, were enough to warrant a 6-game suspension to not negotiate that, move that up or down any number of games. So I don't think this increases Chris Jones' bargaining power. I think it increases the pressure from the fans placed on the Chiefs to figure it out and get it done. And if you've got to write $1 million or $2 more per year guaranteed, then fix the books, work it out, do what you got to do, get it done, sign them, maybe just for the sanity of some Chiefs fans
Please.
Of what the defensive line can look like, even though you've spent first-round draft picks the last 2 years on defensive ends.
And I think you're right that the Chiefs would have to be surprised by the way this played out for the leverage to change. The one thing that I wonder if there is an element of surprise still, I would love to get Brett Veach on the Truth Serum whenever we talk to him next and say, hey, were you surprised not just that Chris Jones didn't show up for day 1 of camp, but were you surprised on August 7th when you still didn't have a deal done? Were you surprised on August 1st? When did you really think, all right, we'll have the deal done by here, and it will allow us to do what we need to do next? Because at this point now, I don't think Chris Jones cost them DeAndre Hopkins. We don't think that they would have actually been there at that price point, even if they had the cash for it. But he could cost them Carlos Dunlap.
Or Melvin Ingram.
Or whoever you wanted to fill into that group. And maybe the Chiefs said, hey, we've got options. It can be Ingram. It can be Dunlap. Maybe there's, I don't ever think it was going to be Ngakoue or Justin Houston. But maybe they have enough options that they're still not sweating it. But if they thought, okay, we're going to have our money figured out with Chris Jones by August 1, that's when the veteran ends are going to start signing. We'll make sure that we've got a seat for one of them in this game of musical veteran defensive ends. And they'll be able to step in for Omenihu for the first 6 games. Then we'll have a nice rotation. When he comes back, everything will be all fine and dandy. That could have been a plan a week ago that still being further and further, or at least no closer with Chris Jones, has then taken off the table. And that is a spot where I do think there could be some actual damage from all of this. Not that they were surprised by Omenihu's suspension, but that now their hands have been tied for longer than they expected them to be.
And I don't think it's any coincidence that in just a couple of days you see both Ngakoue and Justin Houston.
Yep.
It is now game week for the other 30 teams in the NFL. Last week was game week for the Jets and the Browns.
Yes.
Yeah, Jets and Browns. I've already forgot about that game.
Totally forgivable. I watched an upsetting amount of it.
Last week was game week. This is game week for the other 30 NFL teams. So maybe this starts to increase the sense of urgency with free agents to say, all right, now I need to figure out where I'm going to go. Yeah. Justin Houston got 1 year, $7 million, 6 of that guaranteed. Last year, Dunlap got 1 year, $3 million guaranteed from the Chiefs. Justin Houston got double that than what Dunlap got. Yeah. Is that what Dunlap's going to want? Is that what Melvin Ingram's going to want? Like, we'll see, what the price tag will be for those couple of players. They are not signed. So we'll find out. But this, to me, isn't a surprise to really anybody that had been paying attention. not a surprise to the Chiefs, does not increase the bargaining power for Chris Jones, but it does increase at least the vocal pressure to the Chiefs of figuring it out, getting it done, because worst case scenario, if this drags on and drags on and drags on, and then he can't play week 1 or week 2 because of getting in football shape, and you're going up against a couple of offenses, Detroit's that's one of the best offenses in the NFL.
Yep.
And passing offense and what they've been able to do with Jared Goff, and then you've got the Jags.
Yep.
You need to have your guys ready to go. You need to have your studs in there ready to play. Because as good as I think this defense can be this year, you don't get started off on the wrong foot and drop a game the first couple of weeks of the season that you should win if you didn't have your full allotment of players to deploy in that game that could be difference makers out there.
And there aren't very many ways in which the Chiefs can become not no longer contenders, because Patrick Mahomes, as long as he lives and breathes, contenders will be a part of it. But there aren't a lot of ways where you could see the bottom falling out for the Chiefs. And one of the ways I think that's possible is that this defense that 3 days ago we were talking about, really the top 10 potential of this defense is extremely real. I think that the back 7, however the sub packages shake out, your secondary and your linebackers, I am really, really not just happy with from an evaluation standpoint. I'm excited to see them play meaningful football together. I think it's going to be fun. And if the front 4 is George Karlaftis, you, me, and Drake, I don't know that it's going to matter. And look, I
don't think it's going to be that.
I think it'll be better. I have not gotten the call. I have not gotten an offer. I will not be at camp today.
And I will settle for half of what Houston got.
I'll take a third of it. I'll take $1 less than Jason.
I'll take a third of what Dunlap got last year.
Fine, deal.
He got $3 million. I'll take 1.
I want the rookie minimum at least. I need to not be in a CBA violation is my only cutoff.
I'll take $720 or
but
whatever it is.
I do think. Look, you give if Chris Jones is here, all of this fades significantly. We all think Joe Colin's a great defensive line coach and going to maximize the guys. I really like Steve Spagnuolo. Going to maximize the personnel. I hear it. I get it. But a starting, I'm just going to say the thing that's mean but true, okay? A front 4, week 1, of Mike Dana, Derek Nottie, Daniel Wise, George Karlaftis is the worst front 4 in football. There's no way you're going to be able to undercut that. And I like all of those players in different roles. That's what it is. The NFL and player evaluation is finding guys in different roles. Mike Dana as your rotational 3rd or 4th, your 4th defensive end who can come in and do some inside-outside stuff, man, that's a weapon. That's great. I really like Derek Nottie. I like hearing from Derek Nottie. I like watching a 4,000-pound defensive lineman in the middle of a line eating up some blocks. I think that's great. I don't know anything about Daniel Wise. That one I might be faking through on what I would actually expect from him, other than the fact that he's the guy who was there when Chris Jones wasn't present first. Because it's not Trishawn Wharton right now. He's still coming back. It's not going to be Danny Shelton or Keandre Coburn because he and Derek Nottie, either of those guys and Derek Nottie is just 800 pounds of mass. You need some push on the pocket. I like George Karlaftis. I don't want him to be the only guy that offensive lines are planning for. You're doubling George Karlaftis now because the middle of the line's not getting any push. This can fall apart when you take 2 of the top 3 pieces, which is now 6 games of Charles Omenihu, and if Chris Jones is back by week 1 and he's been back in the building long enough to be up to speed, it'll be fine.
Yeah, I agreed.
But if he's not, I'm worried on a level that I didn't think I was capable of being worried about 5 days ago.
We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll continue rolling. Over the weekend, Dave Toub talked with the media along with Leo Chenal and Justin Reed. I want to play some clips from that to look at this Chiefs team, some of the things that Dave Toub had to say. And then Leo Chenal, in what he did a year ago, and especially at the end of the season, to what now the Chiefs might be looking at ways to use him in different spots. We'll do that.
Get your hand in the dirt,
yes,
Leo.
That's right. You know what? You played off the ball.
Yep.
Maybe get that 2-point stance, ready to rush the passer a couple times. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The Hall of Fame game is in the rear view. The first Chiefs preseason game, it is coming up this weekend. That's right, folks. The NFL is here, which means fantasy football is here. Let me tell you about Underdog Fantasy. I love Underdog. It's super easy. It is fast to get started, get into a draft, and play fantasy football the most fun way to play. The sign-up process is smooth. The mobile app is super slick. There's a whole extra level going into this that I really think you're going to appreciate about the best ball. You're running out of time here to draft your $1 million fantasy football team, so don't wait any longer. They're running the largest fantasy football contest of all time, Best Ball Mania 4, with $15 million in total prizes, $3 million to first place. Here's how it works. You're going to love Best Ball because it's fantasy football in the way that it's a live snake draft. It's the fun part. You don't have to worry, though, about your waivers every week if you draft 15 teams. Not a problem in Underdog Fantasy. No waivers, no trades. You just draft your team, and that's it. Underdog then sets the best lineup for you each week of the season. You can set it and forget it until it's time to collect your cash. I've loved drafting an Underdog, and I'm really excited to track my teams as the year goes on without having to worry about, Thursday Night Football just kicked off, and I got an injured player in my flex spot. Not a problem in Underdog. So what are you waiting for? Sign up on UnderdogFantasy.com or via the App Store with promo code BRISCO. That's BRISCO. And Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code BRISCO. Must be 18 or over and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org.
Now more than ever, if you own or operate a medical facility, you need Walker Medical Linen Service. They provide everything your medical facility needs. A Kansas City-based company, Walker Medical...
But in his 18 plays, pretty efficient. In a couple of tackles, he was credited with a sack on Jalen Hurts when he was there and Hurts ran out of bounds. Good for Chanel.
Still on the box score.
Right place, right time. He will always, for the rest of his life, have a sack in the Super Bowl. If you don't believe him, look at that right there on the scoreboard. Scorecard, box score, 1 sack. You don't have to watch the video.
No.
Nobody needs. I don't even think they have video of the Super Bowl anymore.
No, I think that it was too grainy. It's hard to see.
There's nowhere that you can find that video. Just simply look at his stats.
I am going to try to find that video now because it's been a long time, and I bet it's hilarious.
It is just, he's like 5 yards away from Jalen Hurts.
My wife recorded a Lifetime movie over it. It's gone.
Didn't every wife do that? It was old VHS. Well, you recorded over this at the VHS? No, I can't get that back now. It's gone forever. You can't recover that. But here's Leo Chanel weighing in on his feeling year 2 versus, that first year. So year 1 to year 2 and where his comfort level is.
It's really night and day this year. Just having that whole off season, even the longer season in the NFL, it's like, you start to feel those things that you would feel after, a year or whatever in college because it's so much longer. And, entering into this season, this off season, I've kind of been more able to be like, okay, I know what I'm doing for the most part. Now let's work on the little things like technique, like those little things I wouldn't be able to work on before. I now can because, I'm not stressing about like, oh shoot, is that my job? Like where's my guy at? So it's all more, a lot better like tunnel vision on what I'm doing.
In that line, do you feel like you're getting used maybe in a few different positions than maybe you were a year ago, especially in like specifics cases? Like I see you lining up a lot on the line outside. Maybe it was more like a pass rushing situation.
Yeah. Coach Spags, is having us try out, different positions on the line, dropping from inside the line as as that joker role. So we're just trying to get better day in and day out with that. It's something an unfamiliar position to be in. As an off-ball linebacker. Willie and I have kind of been taking that role of getting on the line and rushing. So a guy like him, he's got a ton of speed. So just learning from each other, learning from guys like George. That's been really nice.
Learning from guys like George Karlaftis. So he'll be playing on the line a little bit more. An unfamiliar spot for him being an off-ball linebacker so often that now lining up on the line, maybe some pass rushing. He and Willie Gay doing those things. Just trying to put guys in different positions. The joker position, just a edge rusher, for a different term. But it's interesting that Steve Spagnuolo will be willing to put that on Leo Chanel's plate because the feeling that he was able to at least master a lot of the other things he wants him to do, that, hey, here's something else that you can now learn. And as he said, year 1, year 2, night and day, just being able to process everything and focus on technique, not just like, where am I supposed to go? What am I doing? I can focus on technique while knowing exactly what my role and my job is.
I'm looking at this incredible sack he had in the Super Bowl again, and he starts essentially. It's basically a 5-man front. Clark is wide in a 2-point, and Chanel's not rushing the passer here. His feet are shoulder width, but he just kind of hanging in the zone and then follows Hurts to the sideline. Never physically touches him. Gets very close by the sideline, but all of that does make sense because what's the knock on Leo Chanel? Hey man, you just don't worry about moving backwards or side to side. You just go forward and you do it with violence, and then we will talk later. And a way that we talked about it a tiny bit last year, I think, is kind of finding what his role might be. Say, is there kind of just turning him into a little bit of an edge rusher? Is that really on the table? And it wasn't last year, in part because the processing that you're talking about here makes sense. It being night and day from year 1 to year 2. Justin Reed, who's been in the league for a long time, a safety, said that it was borderline night and day from whatever it was, week 12 to week 14 or whenever that Bengals game was late last year. So that schematically all makes a ton of sense. And now it's about, hey, if you can read the field, you know what your job is, you know what the defense is doing behind you, we'd love to go ahead and put you in your best gear, which is forward fast. That makes a lot of sense for Leo Chanel.
Yeah, and if he could take advantage of that, that's great. Again, utilizing him in different ways. Is Drew Tranquil doing some things that maybe they were looking at Leo Chanel to do? So let's change his role a little bit. Can we have him just be violent, run straight ahead, get after the passer, rush the passer? There were a couple of times in the 9-on-7 drills that we were talking about that's a running drill that I was watching Donovan Smith, and I had said, he was performing well against a couple of those. Malik Herring, one of them was Leo Chenal on the line of scrimmage, and I'm like, oh, yeah. Hearing him then, it's like, oh, yeah, he was lined up in a two-point stance right in front of Donovan Smith, the left tackle. So a little more on ball rather than off-ball linebacker that he is, as he said, unfamiliar with. He did not win that rep against Donovan Smith. I'll just say that.
That's a tough one-on-one rep for Leo Chenal there. I'm glad. We talk about the tension of who you're rooting for in training camp, Chiefs versus Chiefs matchups. I'm glad Donovan Smith didn't get knocked over there.
Yes.
It really is also just, this is kind of the evolution of the NFL over the last several years, and Spags has done some tinkering in terms of figuring out how to end up with your best athletes on the field and really how you can counterpunch a variety of different personnel sets, right? So like the trend that's been talked about a little bit more on shows like the Athletic Football Show, which I occasionally check out, and some others. But we've even talked about it some with some of the PFF guys on this show. I think Verderam would love this. That there's going to be a little bit of a recalibration for offenses in a pass-first league still, but offenses looking and saying, well, if you're going to go ahead and play the pass on us defensively on first down, you're going to be out here in a sub-package of some sort, we will just use our huge offensive linemen and run the football right at you for 7 yards. We'll take that as often as we can get it. If you have more different ways you can use some slightly bigger athletes, or you have a guy like Brian Cook who can play bigger at his position, that's the Dan Sorensen evolution has moved in a lot of that sort of queen piece has moved in a lot of different ways over the last few years, and seeing Spags kind of do a little more tinkering with this personnel, I think, is really exciting.
Look, the way I feel right now about the defensive line with the news on Friday and the Chris Jones situation that continues to
not resolve.
Yes, continues to be unresolved. Week 7, as they get ready to take on the Los Angeles Chargers, they very well could be doing that with Chris Jones, Omenihu, and Carlos Dunlap added to the mix that are not at camp or expected or going to play in the first 6 weeks. Right now, we know Omenihu's not going to play, Chris Jones is not there, and Dunlap/Melvin Ingram's a free agent. Chris Jones gets done, they sign Dunlap, Melvin Ingram, whatever. And week 7, people are still healthy, and Omenihu comes back. That defensive line, I'm going to feel way better and much more calm and confident about what that defensive line can do versus right now just imagining what it looks like currently without Omenihu. Jones is not there. Dunlap and Ingram are free agents, and I don't know, do they even go and make a move like that, even if they get something done with Chris Jones? We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, and I want to hear from Dave Toub. They're missing Nazeeh Johnson, and the ripple effect of that is sort of interesting in Dave Toub talking about who his guys are right now on special teams and what that can mean for this Chiefs team on defense. We'll get into that. And who he's looking for on Sunday. A couple of names come up first. We'll do that next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Feels like every time I walk outside the last few days, I will be surrounded by some varying form of sticks, leaves, and occasionally a few times other severe forms of weather that I don't really know how to handle. Well, good news. I'm not a roofer, and I'm not going to tell you to call me to come check out your roof. I have a much better suggestion for you. This is why I'm telling you about Shamrock Roofing and Construction. They came out and checked out my roof a little while back. We got up on there together. I wanted to see. You don't have to get up there if heights aren't your thing, but I hadn't been up on my roof before. I wanted to know what we were looking for, and we took a look, found good news for my roof. Things were all doing all right up there. Even talked about some ways we could extend the life of the roof, which is great because I like knowing that the people who are working for me and working with me are going to give me the fair shake, and that's what Shamrock Roofing and Construction is going to do every time because they do things a bit differently than your average roofing and construction company. They got a familiar name, a trusted process, and they're family owned, so they're going to treat their employees and customers like family too. This is a tough time to not know what's going on and a literal roof over your head. That's why I trust Shamrock to make sure that mine is doing what it needs to be doing. Keeping us dry, keeping, the sticks and stones, hopefully not literal stones, hailstones, not pebbles, falling from above. This is a wild time to be a homeowner, and you need to make sure that you've got everything where it needs to be. So let me tell you about the people that you need to call. That's Shamrock Roofing and Construction. You can visit them online at shamrockroofer.com or give them a call at 913-850-6556. That's Shamrock Roofing and Construction, 913-850-6556. One call does it all.
Paid for client portrayal and endorsement. The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon it.
We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs whenever practice wraps up there in St. Joe. So the Chiefs play 4 weeks from Thursday, but technically because it's the 7th, it is 1 month from today that they play football, because they play on September 7th. So I'd rather just get to Thursday and say 4 weeks.
I like a month. I like just a month. 1 month from today. It's sort of,
Yeah.
How many days are in each month? No one really knows.
You know what? A month ago, it was already 3 days past July 4th. I mean, a month ago, because, it's August 7th. Yeah. So just think what you were doing on July 4th. And from July 4th to now will be from now until that Sunday opening day, because the Chiefs game would have already passed.
July 4th was a week before your first show for the American Century Championship.
That feels like it was just almost 3 weeks ago.
I'll be honest, it feels almost a month ago to me.
Yeah,
I've been living fast. It feels like almost a month.
It does actually feel. You do need to slow down. You've been living very fast.
I'm worried about it, yeah.
Here's Dave Tobe asked on Sunday, who are you wanting to see? What are you wanting to see out there with your special teams unit?
Yeah, obviously I want to see, and the first guy, Deneric Prince, I want to see him He'll start off as kick returner for us, so I want to see him with live bullets, guys coming down the field, and how he'll set up the blocks and how he'll hit it and be strong. And everything that I've seen in practice, I think I'm going to see in the game, but you still got to see it. And then a lot of the cover guys, I want to see, some of the young guys like Nick Jones and, just all the other dudes.
So he mentions Deneric Prince, main guy that he wants to see. What's he look like as a kick returner when you're actually returning kicks? He had also mentioned they're not going to fair catch, which I don't expect the teams to fair catch in the preseason, because you want to see what your return units look like and returners and things like that. I don't even know on Thursday night in the Hall of Fame game, did they fair catch? Did they return kicks? I don't remember. I wasn't really paying attention, nor did I care enough.
That's a great question. I realized during the Hall of Fame game that I was specifically watching for Zach Wilson, and that was a real come-to-Jesus moment for me. I needed to.
Not really for him, though.
No.
Let's hear from Dave Toub. This is one of the things that I think is going to be interesting moving forward as Nazeeh Johnson being out for the season. Who are the gunners for Dave Toub on the punt coverage?
Right now we got Watson and Williams. Those are our two gunners right now, going forward. Hopefully some of these young guys, maybe Boyd Doe, maybe he comes through, and Watson, the wide receiver, and Ross, the other wide receiver. All those guys all have a shot. They're all going to get reps, but we'll start off with those two.
So when he first said Watson and Williams, the question, I first thought Justin.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Justin Watson.
I did too.
I'm glad that he didn't clarify it and said, and also Watson and the wide receiver. So the starting gunners for the Chiefs are their two cornerbacks, one of them being a starting cornerback and the other being the first cornerback off the bench that are their starting gunners. That's sort of the impact of Nazeeh Johnson as being guy that's somebody that's depth, and maybe that's why he was saying one of the other guys he wants to see is Nick Jones.
Right.
Can Nick Jones take one of those spots? Because right now, I would rather not see Jalen Watson and Joshua Williams be the main gunners on punt coverage every time out there, because you've got McDuffie, you've got Snead. McDuffie missed 6 games last year. Mm-hmm. Snead's still missing with a knee discomfort or whatever. And then it's Watson and Williams are next up.
And then it's Nick Jones.
And that to me is the impact. Like, what's the impact of Nazeeh Johnson? Oh, he's playing well. It sucks. He's a special team guy. There's your impact. Because you got a couple of, and that's where, okay, can Justin Ross do that?
Mm-hmm.
Because there was some drills that Justin Ross downed the ball at the 1 yard line. And, they were doing coffin corners. They were doing the drill of, downing the ball inside the 10 yard line. And Justin Ross made the play that got it, and downed it at the 1. Okay. Well, at least he showed on that particular rep that he's got the ability to do that. We know that Dave Toub really likes Justin Watson. So what's he getting out of Jalen Watson that's more than what you would get out of Justin Watson versus the risk of Jalen being injured as opposed to Justin being injured, which I would rather Justin Watson be the gunner than Jalen Watson and let number 35 just go play cornerback.
And I mean, clearly this isn't like a pressing concern because this is where they're at right now, and they have defensive guys out there in that role all the time. But like you are talking about, hey, go ahead and sprint the length of the field. We're gonna punt it and then play defense. That you're either having a guy run the length of the field in coverage and then stay on the field to then now go cover some wide receiver who's gonna just run a 9 route on you to test your long speed right there, or it's hey go grab a breath and we're gonna get the next round of defenders in here. Now look, I mean there are advantages to also having defensive guys because like Marcus Kemp is a funny one because he was a wide receiver who became a special team expert. But you are like now teaching wide receivers to tackle on special teams again. I don't know again like when the last time Justin Ross played special teams was. It might have been high school. I don't know. Maybe he did it early at Clemson. My guess is he probably didn't. But at least in coverage, But I would much rather see it be Justin Watson and then it can be CB 4 or 5. But this is another thing with Dave Toub, and I do wonder if there's ever a tug of war that has to get landed between Spags and Toub on these guys. But if you're taking your third cornerback out of your first couple of plays as a defensive sequence, or you're saying, hey, I need you to do both of these back-to-back, which, world-class athletes and whatnot. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it does seem a little bit unnecessary if you have other options you can trust. So it's going to be Nick Jones, and I would have thought Justin Watson would be there already, but it's going to be those guys earning the trust of Dave Toub to play what he sees as a very important role.
Shamari Connor is also a guy that he's talked about, but maybe not as a gunner. He likes those guys that are, specifically the cornerbacks or a wide receiver like a Justin Watson with that speed to get down there. We'll also play a clip at some point in the show. If we don't play it, he was asked specifically about Echo Boydo. So he talks about Echo Boydo, but he was also asked specifically, hey, what are you seeing from him? And he said, he's one of those guys that he wants to see on Sunday, because what he wants to see on Sunday is, can a 175-pound cornerback go and play special teams?
It's a good question.
Because if Boydo's going to make the team, he's going to have to do that. And can his size translate to NFL special teams play at like 175 pounds? Somebody to watch on Sunday.
Chiefs fans, the Champs return for the home opener against the Lions on September 7th. Tickets for less, your local KC ticket experts.
Zone is brought to you by Guaranteed Foods, official sponsor of Family Mealtime. Enjoy healthier food, more free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, so Chiefs still going through some special teams part of the practice right now. Full pads today. They get ready for preseason game number 1 on Sunday for the Chiefs, taking on the Nolan Saints. And I would guess Andy Reid will talk today, and he'll be asked, hey, how much will Patrick Mahomes play? And he'll say, well, we'll just kind of see how that whole thing goes. He'll get a series. I don't know if that means it's 3 and out.
Are you saying that's the answer or what Andy Reid will say?
No, I think that's what he'll get.
Okay.
The last number of years with Patrick Mahomes, the first game, he gets a series.
Yeah, but Andy Reid always says everyone gets a quarter, right?
Yeah.
And then he pulls them after a series.
The offensive line stayed in for the first quarter.
Okay, that's right. They did get a little Henne time.
But Chad Henne came in after the first series last year in game number 1. Chad Henne came in, Shane Buechele came in the second game after the first 2 series because Mahomes got 2 series, and they said, we don't need to see Chad Henne. We're going to see what Shane Buechele looks like with the ones. So Shane Buechele came in game number 2 as the backup quarterback for Patrick Mahomes, and then Mahomes didn't play in game 3. So he got 3 total series last year in the preseason games. 1 series, and now that first series was 12 plays. The first series of the preseason, 12 plays, 75 yards, a touchdown. And the conversation coming out of that was he threw to 8 different receivers.
I forgot about that.
Well, I guess here we go. This is what this year's going to be like. He told you. He's apologizing to fantasy football people out there that this is what it's going to look like, and they just threw to everybody: Michael Burton, Travis Kelce, whoever, MVS, Juju, Sky. Hell, they threw to Kadarius Toney, and he was on the Giants. Like, it was weird.
Really should have seen that coming.
That's why I say 1 series, but if it's a 3 and out against the Saints, does he come back out there for another series? That first series was 12 plays.
I think being out there long enough to get a little bit of a groove and then getting the hell out is probably the right call.
Yes. 1 series, even if it goes a couple first downs, that'll be the end of what we'll see in that preseason game with Patrick Mahomes.
Do you want to see how many of these names we can get? You've got a bunch of them already from guys who caught passes from Mahomes on that first drive. God. So far, there's nothing absolutely outrageous here. It's just a ridiculously long list of names.
How many was it by was I close with 8?
Let's find out. Opened up by a pass to Michael Burton, McCole Hardman.
Oh, yeah, McCole.
Then a handoff to Clyde, and then a handoff to Michael Burton on 3rd and 1. The fullback dive started early.
Hey, that's awesome.
More Clyde, and then Kelce, MVS, Pacheco run, not a pass.
Ooh.
MVS, pass to Pacheco, and then Blake Bell, touchdown. So 6. On, 6 I think, 6 passes? Is that right? Did I double up anybody?
Twice.
MVS twice. Okay, there you go. So 6 receivers on 7 passes. They yanked him out.
There you go. And so that's what we were talking about is he threw 7 passes, 6 went to different receivers.
He was 6-4-7. So maybe was that MVS when an incompletion? Must
have been.
That makes
Either
sense.
way. MVS was sort of a 50% catch rate last year, so that would make sense.
It actually worked out.
2 targets, 1 reception for MVS. He was actually below 50%, but who's counting? Nobody needs to. Jesse Newell tweeting out saying, fantasy football tweet. Sky Moore has been with the ones every rep at training camp when KC has had 2 wide receivers. I'm using parentheses here and saying MVS is the other one in parentheses. He says, Rashee Rice, Justin Ross have occasionally mixed in with the ones, but overwhelmingly been with the 2s. Things can change, of course, but every indication as of now is Moore is ahead of those 2.
To be expected, I think.
Yeah. Bucky Brooks in his Scouts Notebook. He does the Move the Chains podcast with Daniel Jeremiah at NFL.com, but Bucky Brooks, NFL.com analyst, Scouts Notebook and camp observations from the weekend. He writes about Sean Payton and Russell Wilson, and then the Chiefs' next star receiver, ? If you haven't caught the buzz around Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Justin Ross.
Yeah!
Let me introduce you to an off-season hype bunny who could take the NFL by storm.
Hype bunny?
That's what it says. An off-season hype bunny.
Not familiar with hype bunny as a phrase.
Who could take the NFL by storm in 2020. 23. Ross is a ball magnet who has the potential to dominate on the perimeter as a vertical playmaker jump ball specialist. The second-year pro has been going viral on social media platforms with a dazzling array of acrobatic catches showcasing his ability to win contested balls. And then he goes into like quotes from Andy Reid that we've already heard, quotes from Patrick Mahomes that we've heard, quotes from Travis Kelce that we've already heard. He's writing the full-on, story on that. And then says, while discussing Ross on Path to the Draft last year, I highlighted Ross's size, catch radius, and proven ability to perform on the big stage, and I still believe in those traits. Considering how Reid can elevate playmakers, Ross is in a perfect spot to emerge as a difference maker for a team that would benefit from the presence of a steady wide receiver one.
Oh, yeah.
Who can complement tight end Travis Kelce in the passing game.
I can exclusively confirm the Chiefs would benefit from a steady wide receiver one.
Oh, it is getting to a fever pitch. A hype bunny is what it is.
That one's still new to me, but I'll take his word on it.
We'll take a timeout. We will come back, and we'll hear from Andy Reid, Isaiah Pacheco, Tommy Townsend, and Trent McDuffie. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com, in the 810 mobile app, or by subscribing to The Zone.
We'll head up to St. Joe and hear from the Kansas City Chiefs. Andy Reid will be first at the podium, and then we'll see the order between Isaiah Pacheco, Tommy Townsend, and Trent McDuffie, who will be there in St. Joe talking with the assembled media. And we'll hear about any injuries or anything like that from Andy Reid, as he will give that update first and foremost, as it is a game week for the Chiefs, getting ready for the New Orleans Saints coming up on Sunday. So what would be a typical game week? While there's a 2 games on Thursday night back-to-back for NFL Network. So a 6 o'clock and a 9 o'clock start on Thursday night, and then Friday games, Saturday games, and then just 2 on Sunday, I believe. That'd be on KSHB 41, the NFL Network, if you're outside the area.
Know anybody over there?
I can reach out.
Just try to contact somebody.
Cold calls.
Yeah, I think that.
Just do some cold calls, see what they have to say about that.
Aaron Ladd's really funny on Twitter. I can see if his DMs are open.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's do that. Can he come in at 1 o'clock? Actually be here at 1 o'clock?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
McKenzie could probably get here. Should be great.
Great. Here's Andy Reid.
All right, we good? All right, so as far as injuries go, Jody Fortson, L'Jarius Sneed, and his is better. It's getting there. We're just the inflammation we're working with. And then KT. So everybody else practiced. It was good to get some of the guys that were banged up a little bit out there. And Turk continues to progress with reps, a little 9-on-7 and so on team. So it's good to get him in there. Anyways, the guys are competing. It was good to get them back. They had a day off yesterday. Good to get them back in there and working. They're challenging each other, which is a plus. So that time's yours.
Andy, you talked about Sneed a minute. Did he have a setback or?
Yeah, it swells. So we're trying to keep the swelling down on that. And the better we do that, the better off he's going to be for the season.
And it was a minute suspension, what you expected?
You're never sure about those. How many games they're going to get. I mean, so you got the 6, and that's where we're at. But we'll work. We knew it was going to be something, so they went that direction. We'll work through it, and the other guys will step up and go.
What's your message generally about? How do you feel just generally about that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's done. So he's just got to keep pushing through and make sure he doesn't slack off on the football part, and then take care of business.
Sorry, I meant the other guys you have in that position.
Oh, yeah. So they're handling it well. We'll just see how it all works out during the preseason. Who steps up, who doesn't, and we'll just go from there. But I think we have enough bodies there to take care of it.
You're kind of answering that. Your message to him, he's got real time to work with you guys now. This is an important time for him to.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what he's doing. That's the frame of mind he's in.
Andy, I know it's game week. Have you put any thought yet into what you're going to try to do for the preseason games or the mixing and matching everybody?
I haven't, no. We're going through that, though, this week and making sure we get all that taken care of. But normally, if you have 4 quarterbacks, normally they get a quarter apiece. So that's normally what you do, and then fit the other guys in there. But I'll give you all that later down the road here as we get it set.
Maybe Felix is going to be one of the guys who helps with cementing you. What have you seen any progress from him as camp has gone on?
Yeah, no, I mean, he's had good work. It looks like he's cutting it loose more. So that normally means that he's picking it up a little bit better. And you're seeing him play faster. He's worked in there with the ones, a little bit. So that's also good for him to feel that.
Coach, how has Isaiah Pacheco progressed when it comes to the health thing? When do you anticipate maybe him getting ready?
Yeah, so he's done very well. I mean, we're just doing everything we can to hold back on him. I mean, he's got to, he's just got to tell him to go slow is a hard thing. So he's got to have patience, and he doesn't have a lot of that. But he's doing great. He's doing great. We just have to see, as it goes on here with the contact part. So he's getting good work in without that.
I guess the dog days of camp, you've been here a long time, haven't played a game yet. Luckily, it's not 100 degrees today. With your young guys especially, how have you seen them kind of get through an off day and come back and work on things?
Yeah, the weather helps learning as you go. The guys can focus a little bit more on that. I think they've done a good job with it. Retention after day off have been good, so you know they're in their books looking at things. We're not just calling one install, we're using all the installs, and they seem to be able to hang with that. So on both sides of the ball, so it's been good that way.
How overall are you pleased with the progression going into this first preseason game with just the team overall?
I like the way they're challenging themselves. That's a part you never know coming in how that's going to be. But I mean, you guys are here, you see it, so you hear it and see it. They're getting after each other, but doing it the right way. But still, it's competitive out here, and that's a good thing.
Coach, I know you're going to coach the guys who are here, but is there an amount of time that a guy like Chris needs in order to be ready for the season, to get up to football speed, to be comfortable with it? Do you have a comfort level about when he will be?
Yeah, I don't know when he'll be here, but I tell you, any work that he can get will help him, yes. It's a pretty fast game.
All right.
All right,
Thanks.
Thanks.
All right, there's Andy Reid. It's a pretty fast game.
It's a pretty fast game.
Any work he can get will help him. It's a pretty fast game. Here's Isaiah Pacheco.
Where's the podium today?
So Coach says you still have a yellow jersey on. Coach says it's hard to make you go slow and just to calm down and not want to do too much.
All brakes, no gas.
What has the challenge been like for you to kind of do that? You know, because you made this team last year, all brakes, no gas.
You know, we just finding the intensity to practice every day, and that's coming out with the energy, and you know, having that energy, just being able to compete. And when you love to compete, you know, you're gonna have a lot of energy showing out there.
When do you want to let it loose? I know you want to be out there in contact today, right?
Yes, sir. But whenever if they allow me to go, I'm ready to go. It's whenever they tell me I'm ready to go, and like I said, I'm just keep working, finding those ways to get better.
We see on the side standing and having to watch a lot. How frustrating is that for a guy like you?
It's very frustrating, but you know, when you're on the side and you're getting those mental reps, you're just detailing and getting those reps in the back of the just, you know, asking coach, what's this play, doing those mental reps in the back, it allows me to stay on top of my task.
Anybody giving you a hard time for having to wear that yellow jersey?
Some of the players, you know what I'm saying, all of the late yellow jersey, but like I said, you know what I'm saying, I just come out here to work, and they know they're going to get a lot of energy out of me, so it's either I'm in the yellow jersey or the red jersey, you're still going to get energy.
As you eye 2023, what do you want to improve in your own game?
That's finding the little things and pinpointing those to get better at. And as far as understanding the blocking schemes a lot better than last year, just running, beating myself, being the O-line to the hole, understanding the scheme, slowing down, tempo, allowing myself to see the hole.
Compared to last season, how do you feel the progression of this unit is going into the first preseason game as opposed to last year?
I'll say there's been a lot of competition out here for me, you know, getting a perspective on it in the film, just taking notes. I say there's competition all the time, so that when you got competition, you got a lot of guys competing for spots, and then, you know, it's only going to show in the field when game day comes how hard we've been working.
Isaiah, you've been through this before, obviously, last year. Which of the rookies have jumped out to you that you sort of see that they're progressing in the right way?
I say all of them. That's what I looked at last year with my class. All of us stood out, and for example, we got some of those younger guys asking me, how was this, how was that, where do I take care of my body? You know, just asking questions, and for me, I was doing the same as well. So I don't have a problem with sharing that information with that younger player to allow them to be the best they can be.
Isaiah, you're confident that you're going to get enough practices in to feel up to speed by game one?
Oh, yes, sir. We're already getting practices in day by day. I'm getting whatever I can get out of it, and that's just work. Ain't taking no days off.
Is there a certain sort of date you're targeting to be able to be fully cleared to be out here?
No certain day. I'm just waiting for that game day. Whenever coach allowed me to, you know what I'm saying, strap it up. I'm already strapped up right now. I'm ready to go.
What are they testing on you to say if you're ready to go? What is it? Actual physical thing? Or
I'm just waiting for him to say. I'm just waiting for him to say you ready to go. And for me as a player, I'm always ready. So I don't know when that's gonna be.
Couple more. That last year was you don't get stuff done. It's tough for losses. Where does that come from? Is that a physical thing for you? Is it a mental thing? Is it a little bit of both? What's your approach to as far as just not getting stuff?
My approach to as far as not getting stuff, that's allowing myself to understand and trust the blocking scheme and understand how it's going to get blocked up. for me, just writing notes in a classroom of how the blocking scheme is going to get blocked up, because, like I said, you got the guys that can slip off, and that's the play. We need all 11 guys to make the play. So for me, understanding the scheme to the pinpoint will allow me to find a way to get positive yards.
Pop, we see you dance on the side with Clyde and Jet, man. Last year, that wasn't the case, right? You were a rookie. How much has the game slowed down for you?
It slowed down a lot. I'll say I trust myself and I trust the scheme, the quarterback, and the coaches. For me, it's just, like I said before, finding the little things that I got to get better at. And like I said, I got high standards, and I'm unsatisfied.
Are you working on a new dance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the trial period like? Testing out, you go to the guys, say, hey, this works, that works. What's that like?
When I get in that end zone, y'all gonna see it.
Who's the better dancer out of the three?
I'm from Jersey, so you know we known for dancing. Yeah, I know we known for dancing in Jersey.
Last one. Oh, sorry. Just a little off topic. What did you have for breakfast this morning?
Oh, I had a smoothie. Good little smoothie. I don't get too crazy on the carbs or nothing, but like I had a smoothie. Keep me in shape. I had some greens. I had some oats. And I can't tell y'all the rest of them, emergency, all that good rice stuff, you know what I'm saying? So it's gonna get me hydrated for practice, electrons, electrolytes, yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
There's Isaiah Pacheco learning some things. One, Jersey's known for dancing. Found that out. And he's strapped up right now.
Yeah.
So Frank Clark's influence still on the team.
All brakes, no gas.
That's right. All brakes, no gas. Did he mean all gas, no brakes? Or because he's got the yellow jersey on, now he's got to be all brakes, no gas? Because typically he's all gas, no brakes.
I think the latter is correct. I think he's working on all brakes, no gas right now. As Andy Reid says, he doesn't have a whole lot of patience.
That's tough to be able to carry the football if it's all brakes and no gas.
I hope the gas does show up for the season.
And if it's all brakes, no gas, just put it in park. I mean, what's the point?
That's true.
I feel like you're just using the brakes needlessly. No reason to do that.
No neutral for Isaiah Pacheco. It's not a gear he has.
No. Well, it depends on if that electron is.
that's right. We'll listen to Isaiah Pacheco press conferences as often as we can get them.
I loved it. I really enjoyed it.
He announced himself in Kansas City to take another grown man's job. That was like the debut for him.
That's exactly right. I do want to know if Jersey is known for dancing. Like, is Jersey known for dancing? Like, who's the best dancer? I'm from Jersey. That makes sense. Yep, okay, he's from Jersey. Of course, he's the best dancer because that's typically what it's known for.
Well, when you start typing "is New Jersey," the first autofill is New Jersey a state? And hey, everybody, good news! I can save you one Google. Yes, it is. It is.
Okay, I always like the suggested fill-ins after that. Is New Jersey a state?
I went ahead and Googled it, and it does appear that New Jersey is a state.
Okay. Is it a state known for dancing, though?
I'll get back on that again.
Okay. I really want to find out. We'll hear from Tommy Townsend and Trent McDuffie. Here's Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, sorry.
Trent, so one-on-one for the Sky.
Yeah.
Just getting back and forth with receivers. Except for the Sky, how have you seen him improve just going up against him? How has he made you better as well?
Yeah, man, Sky's my dog. That's definitely someone who, compared to last year, I feel like has improved a ton. I mean, you talk about his quickness, his speed off the line, his routes, and just his hands. His overall just how he's become a better receiver in this league is something that I looked at that has helped me a ton. We talk about a few guys that I go against every day, and he's one of them because he's one who's going to show me the best looks, give me the best routes, and I love competing against him every day. So it's been a lot of fun coming out here and going against Scott.
We've seen you wind up a lot inside this camp.
Yeah.
So how comfortable you feel right now?
Yeah, I mean, this offseason I spent a lot of time at just trying to learn the position a little more. I didn't play a lot in college. You know, I've always been someone who said, don't mean anywhere I can play it, but nickel was something that I definitely had to learn. And coming into camp this year, it's been tough, but I feel like I've learned a ton. And just the communication, having Nick Bowen on the inside talking to me a ton, having corners out there, Jay Watt, Josh know what they're doing, and then the back end, I mean, my safeties, even Mike who came in and is learning a new playbook has been tremendous. So being able to just go in there and help out, especially with Snead, who's not in all the time, still working on himself, is going to be helpful.
How much has L'Jarius helped out?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like last year, especially coming back and then jumping straight inside over the course of the last season, he's been someone I can really truly look up to and just ask all the questions. I mean, he's been here 3 years, has done it inside, outside, and just picking his brain and just what he sees, how he does in certain things, why he lines up that way has been, for me, like teacher to student type of thing.
What do you guys miss about him out here?
I feel like it's just anytime you're missing someone who's a key factor in the defense, someone who's starting, someone who you look up to, kind of like Snead. I want to say something's missing, but it's just like, man, I wish he was out here. You know, you can kind of feel more of a game-like rep, kind of see where his head's at. You can kind of get a feeling of where he's going to be, what he's looking at. So some of those things you kind of miss, but I mean, he's there doing walkthroughs. He's there all the time. So we're just excited for him to get back out there.
Some of those red zone windows when you guys are going into the offense and shrinking.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think is contributing to that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this year, Spags done a great job at just honing in on red zone. I know last year we didn't do as great as we wanted to do, but this year's been a big emphasis is going out here in red zone, third down, and just being able to be the best team in there. So just constantly, every day, doing some, a little more, just based off of red zone, I feel like it is truly helping us. And it all goes back to repetition and just make sure we trust one another out there, and I feel like we're really getting a lot better.
Trey, what's the matchup against these wide receivers? It seems to us that just similar. There's a lot of differences between each guy they throw at you.
I feel like Patrick has a lot of weapons, and I'm really excited for them to go out there against somebody else other than our defense and kind of put on a show because each one of them has a unique skill set. I mean, you got MVS, who's a burner. You got Sky, who can do the dirty work. I mean, you got guys like Rashee Rice, who comes out here, Jay Watt. I mean, a bunch of dudes who can catch the ball really well, run really good routes, and Patrick Mahomes. With him back there, you're pretty set as a receiver, and these guys have done a good job of just taking it all in and going out there and attacking each day, so I feel like they're going to have a great year.
Trent, year 2 for you, just overall, your thoughts on taking last season and this season? What's kind of the compare and contrast, if you will, of this team going into this first preseason game as opposed to last season?
Yeah, I mean, as far as this team overall, I feel like we've come really close to one another. I mean, last year, you look at it, there was 8 rookies starting. It's a new team. We had a lot of guys that came in. I mean, Jay Reed didn't know the defense. We had a bunch of receivers who came in. So, like, this team was really pretty new and pretty new at just relationships building and just who we are as people. And over the course of a whole year, I mean, we made all of the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, came back for OTAs, and it felt like nothing fell. It felt like the Super Bowl team came into the OTAs and started off really strong. And coming into training camp, it felt like just nothing has gone missing. Everybody's been building and building and building, and I feel like last year we were on a different level. You know, we were a little bit farther down, still trying to learn, trying to work it out, and this year everybody came in here confident and kind of just excited to go out there and play, and that's something that you get to feed off of each and every day.
Got a non-Chiefs question. You went to Washington, you're
Yep.
a California guy.
Yep.
Washington's moving to the Big Ten. It looks like the Pac-12 is going to maybe be dead.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that as somebody who grew up out there getting that lead?
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I can't even picture. I grew up Southern California, so SC, UCLA, and now that you're all the way in the Big Ten and knowing that, I don't doubt it, nobody's going to be traveling from California all the way to the Big Ten in December. Like, nobody wants to do that. So it's going to be weird. I mean, for UW, I mean, I'm excited for them. You know, it's a new opportunity, but it's crazy. I'm still trying to catch up on why everything happened, but it should be interesting. It should be interesting.
Would there be any team, if you were there when they were moving to the Big Ten, is there any Big Ten team you would have liked to have played or went against?
Big Ten. Ohio State's in Big Ten? Ohio State, for sure.
Kind of following up on that, though, like, there was a lot of recruits that are very disappointed that they went to, like, a school in, say, California, West Coast,
Yeah.
they don't want to feel like traveling. Put yourself in those shoes. Would you have wanted, if you knew that was going to happen, would you have wanted to play at a place like that that you had to go to Rutgers and Iowa?
I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, man, I mean, you look at this in the NFL. We travel all over. I mean, being someone who's like, oh, I want to go to a Cali school and just stay in Cali and play Cali teams, like, that's not realistic at all. And especially when you go to a big-time program, I mean, you're going to be traveling, man. It's just part of the way it is. So for guys who are looking to go somewhere and not want to travel across the country, I mean, you're looking at it all wrong.
What'd you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning, I had oatmeal and a protein shake.
What did you have in the protein shake?
Oh, man, what do I have? I have some glutamine, peanut butter, banana, some collagen, and this vanilla protein I use.
That's good? Yep.
There's Trent McDuffie. We'll hear from Tommy Townsend whenever he gets up to the podium. But Trent McDuffie conference realignment expert, weighing in on the Pac-12 sort of going away, and a lot of other things that he weighed in on and talked about, including his breakfast. Pacheco talking about the same thing. A lot of smoothies around the Chiefs for breakfast.
The one little collegiate. Well, I'm going to hold it because I think Tommy Townsend's almost here. I don't want to punt on this segment.
Tommy, all-pro season last year. What are you trying to improve upon to get even better this season?
I thought it was a really, really solid year all across the board. So it's not really about trying to do anything different. It's just about, trying to do the same things that I did and replicate it. But, every season's different. So, just going to take what comes at me and, just do everything I can to, have another good season. So, yeah.
Is there anything specific you've worked on or something that you're trying to fine-tune?
Not really. I mean, it's just trying to work on the same things that I did last year, which were, just trying to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. Because like I'd mentioned before, and like everyone knows, Kansas City's one of the windiest places to play. So, yeah, just trying to hold on to the ball as long as I can, and yeah, just really pull my legs straight through. But, a big thing, try and work on a bunch of different kicks, and try and be a wizard with the football, just Harry Potter with the football. So, yeah.
Tommy, from your and James' perspectives, how much are you trying to make sure Harrison gets a chance to be a Pro Bowler or something that, well, a few things he hasn't had in his career as a Pro Bowler, obviously, everybody knows about the guy in Baltimore, but how much do you two guys talk about giving Harrison that opportunity, that honor, I should say?
Yeah, I mean, as a unit, it's a collective goal for, to do everything we can to make each other as successful as possible. And, that's something that we focus on every single day is we always try and, a certain amount of time for everybody. If Harrison's kicking, we put a lot more focus towards him and the short snaps and the field goal operation and all that. And, so it's just it's a whole collective thing, just making sure that we're doing everything we can to make everyone as the best possible player that we can be. So yeah.
What ways does Coach Joe find ways to challenge you in this practice?
I mean, he's always putting pressure on me. He's always putting a lot of pressure on me. So that's one thing that he always takes pride in is making practice harder than the game. So. And I think he does a really good job of that because I do get a little nervous out here, especially the first couple practices back. It's really nervy and, getting everything going, just the speed of it and, just how he has our practices set up. So it really gets you prepped and ready for the season.
So just talking about, obviously, the approach that he had to adapt last year with the injury, and now he's talking about how he's approaching it a little bit maybe different now. Mm-hmm. How does that impact you from a timing standpoint and working with him on the phone and everything? Is there an adjustment you have to go through?
As far as my holding with Harrison?
Yeah, with different approaches now.
Not really. I mean, everything's just about the same. It's most of what Harrison has to fix is all technical things to relearn how to kick with that injury. Just because kicking's just such a technical thing. If something's just a little bit off, you got to find ways to improve and fix it. So. We try and accommodate him as much as possible as far as different leans with the holds, yeah.
Tony, going back to something you said earlier, how does Joe make practice more difficult maybe than the game? Does he feel like he does?
He just puts a lot of pressure on you to be perfect as during practice, and that's not always going to happen. Everyone has their good days and bad days, but he puts a lot of pressure on us to be perfect and yeah, just whether it's me being sometimes I feel more pressure when I go out there and I'm doing punt return and I'm punting to the returners just because I have to fire good kicks down there to the returners so they can have a good a good punt return period. And if I go out there and I have bad punts, then I kind of f up the the punt return period. So that's a really big pressure situation, and I like to challenge myself every now and again and go out and hit the punt return just because I have to have good kicks during that set, especially.
Tommy, you decided to change your representation. You have Drew representation now. He's known to represent some big name finals. What would it be for you to be represented?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that I've thought about the past couple weeks, and but at the moment I'm just I'm just looking forward to this season and just going out and put together another really good season. But I'm excited about working with Drew, and obviously he's great at representing players. So, at the end of the day, I'm just, looking forward to getting back out on the field and, having another good season and see what happens. So.
What did you have for breakfast this morning?
This morning, I usually always have the same thing. I'll go and get like a little yogurt parfait, you know, granola, some fruit with some honey, and then I'll do some eggs and sometimes bacon, maybe some sausage. But yeah, I cheated a little bit today, threw some pancakes in there. But yeah, that's I don't know. I try and change it up a little bit during camp, especially, you know, everything's so repetitive. So yeah, just try and change it up.
Thomas being told maybe something last week. You're totally good from that, totally moved on, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of been like a little day-to-day thing. You know, it's been improving really quickly, which is good. But yeah, just got twisted up a little bit last week. But you know, like I said, it's been feeling really good. And yeah, I've been working with Glove in the training room, and it's been progressing really well. So I don't really expect it to be lingering or anything like that. So yeah, feeling good.
Tommy, with the change in representation, have you had any conversations yet about the Chiefs about an extension in the state of Kansas City? And what do you hope to have?
I mean, that's definitely something I'm interested. I would love to stay in Kansas City, you know, as long as I can. So I mean, we'll see. But I mean, like I was saying, like at the end of the day, I mean, I have to play well, so that's my focus at the moment, and you know, that's part of the reason why I hired Drew, you know, so he can handle everything off the field and you know, just allow me to focus on football 100% and, you know, do the best that I can. So yeah.
Anything else? All right, thanks guys.
All right, there's Tommy Townsend weighing in on his punting, not effing things up, and just getting all Harry Potter with the football.
Amazing. Wish you could cast a spell on that ankle.
Crazy with the cheese whiz. We'll see. All right, we'll be able to continue talking some Chiefs on the other side of the break. We'll talk with Ari Timken from Big 12. SiriusXM College Sports covers the Big 12. We'll get his thoughts on everything that's gone on the last week or so. Coming up at noon, we got Mick Schaefer, 1 o'clock. More Zone next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
All right, I've been telling you about my friends over at Guaranteed Foods and the life-changing service that has been Guaranteed Foods for me and my family, the official sponsor of Family Mealtime since 1958. It's been the official sponsor of our mealtime for the last month or so because of the convenience, the nutrition, the health, the time we get back, all of the value that Guaranteed Foods provides. You want to give them a call, 913-888-5000. To learn more about the Guaranteed Foods difference, go to guaranteedfoods.com if you want to learn more there as well. But 913-888-5000, and you can figure out and find out how the monthly investments can change your life the way that it has done for me and my family with the Commercial Food Service Center that has all of the food that's stocked, over 600 restaurant-quality gourmet food products, including 100% all-natural meats, fruits, and vegetables. They've got the hassle-free 100% money-back guarantee on all products, even after you've eaten them. That's how confident they are that you will enjoy what you are eating, what you are making, and that's certainly been the case for us with the tons of varieties of delicious meals that we've had on hand at all time, being able to switch some things up. And one of the best parts is that no leftovers. We're not stocking the fridge with all of the stuff we've got left over, whether it's individual portions or it's take a little bit out and we can heat it up for, you know, Everett, Jules, whatever, or for me, for Kalen. It's easy, it's convenient, it's great, and the safety of the meat processed only in federally inspected plants. You get quality entrees at home for much less than eating out, and that's what we have done in our family, and it's been great. If you want to see the difference that it will provide for your family, you won't be sorry if you do this. 913-888-5000 is the phone number. If you have them come out and go through all the things that they do can provide for you, you'll understand the difference what Guaranteed Foods provides for you and your family. If you want to learn more, go to guaranteedfoods.com. That's guaranteedfoods.com. Give them a call, 913-888-5000. Tell them you heard about it right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Compensated dramatization.
I called Mike and he...
All right, we'll continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Thank you for continuing to tune in right here in the zone. Jason Anderson, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We head up until 2 o'clock. We'll talk with Ari Timken, SiriusXM College Sports. Covers the Big 12. We'll get his thoughts on everything that took place last week, the highs and lows, the peaks, the valleys, the roller coasters, the emotions that took place with all of the different conference realignment stuff that was just crazy. And now we see what these conferences look like currently. Stay tuned because next week it might be different. I don't know. We'll find out. 913-912-4810 is the text line. A little NFL news. Kareem Hunt is visiting the New Orleans Saints. So we were just talking about him on Friday.
Sure were.
He's still a free agent, hasn't signed yet. He is visiting with the New Orleans Saints. I don't know. Are they going to do like the Dalvin Cook thing where they have him just walk around training camp practice for 2 days while the fans are yelling, Kareem, Kareem, something like that, like the Jets fans were doing, Dalvin, Dalvin.
The Dalvin Cook thing was great, but honestly, I think it's disrespectful that you don't call it the Bashaud Breeland thing, just because, I mean, that man was on that man pretended to take a phone call to not have to deal with questions about if he was going to be your chief or not.
Sorry about that. So I will refer to it as such.
Thank you very much.
Moving forward, that'll be what I do. We still haven't found out if New Jersey's known for...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. Is New Jersey known for dancing?
Because right now on ESPN, they are
state dance.
They are interviewing Todd Frazier, who played on the Toms River, New Jersey Little League team that won the Little League World Series.
Okay.
Todd Frazier, Major League Baseball. So I just saw, it's New Jersey, and it's showing highlights of Todd Frazier playing on the Toms River, New Jersey team that won. That I'm like, oh yeah, we haven't even got to the bottom of this whole. I mean, because that year New Jersey was known for Little League Baseball, and maybe also the dances that they had at home plate.
Yeah, so this article from NJ1015.com, I believe it's a radio station in New Jersey based off of where the period is in 101.5.
The best music from your entire life. Oldies, newies. Turn it up.
I do have questions now about both what's on this radio station and also what is going on in New Jersey. In 1983...
A lot of people have questions about what's going on in New Jersey.
This will answer a question, and then we'll begin to tell you a lot more. In 1983... by joint resolution in the New Jersey legislature, the square dance was instated as the American folk dance of New Jersey.
There you go.
So maybe Isaiah Pacheco is going to pay tribute to his home state of New Jersey with a square dance touchdown dance sometime, hopefully very early in the NFL season. This is the dancing result that I get when Googling New Jersey dancing.
Okay.
And I don't... Here's a YouTube video about New Jersey club music, which feels like it's probably a little more along the lines.
It's just Jersey Shore, right? I mean, it's simply that. It's just...
yeah, I'm
just house music, right?
I'm not sure if that's...
You come here often?
A Jersey Shore thing.
You could get the help from Echo and do a little Echo Boy Do-Si-Do. That's all I remember from square dancing at an elementary school in gym is the do-si-do. I don't remember the rest.
They're going to show up on Thursdays before and after pun name game. Echo Boy Do-Si-Do.
I'm going to figure out a way to get that involved in Fact or Fiction. I'm going to try to get that in for a segment with Mick. We're going to make that a Sports or Leisure. It's going to be in the cuts.
Echo Boy Do-Si-Do. That would be great if he was a part of that.
I got to make sure I don't talk over you when you're about to sing something. It really makes it harder to cut.
That's fine. You'll figure it out.
I sure will.
Can't we just separate the tracks? I mean, we should have that technology, right?
Drake, do we have that technology?
Curtis.
Did you say tracks plural?
Separate the mic. Aren't these mics going into completely different computers, and then one computer there combines them, and so we can just take the one mic there and the other mic there? Isn't that how most radio stations do
Computer?
Computer. That's right. 913-912-4810 is the text line. The news that we talked about to start the show was Charles Omenihu being suspended for 6 games. Andy Reid said that, yes, it was expected. That
he said a suspension was expected.
Yeah, they weren't sure about the number of games, but he said we knew it would be something.
Yeah.
Whether they thought it was going to be 2, 4, 6, or 8, whatever. They knew that there was a suspension coming for Charles Omenihu. And that's why, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of the show was I don't see this as, okay, now there's extra bargaining power for Chris Jones because now Omenihu is suspended. The Chiefs were not caught off guard that Omenihu was not going to be out there for at least the first couple of weeks, probably the first 4 weeks. Maybe they're a little taken aback with it being 6 weeks, but not the extra bargaining power that it was like, oh my God, he's suspended. Nobody knew that he was going to be suspended. They knew, and it's part of this whole process.
Serious question. Does that give the Chiefs a little cap relief?
So I actually was looking at that earlier. Yeah, and the issue with Omenihu's contract is that the bigger year is next year. Unless there's been an adjustment here on over the cap, which I don't believe is the case. On over the cap, he's at $4.85 million is his total cap number, but $3.75 million of that is a prorated bonus. So that was all up front and then prorated out over 2 years. His base salary is a little over $1 million. He doesn't have a roster bonus anywhere this year, so his guaranteed salary is $1.1 million with a workout bonus that I think he already would have picked up. So
it'd be like $100,000.
It would be
it'd be like $400,000 or $500,000,
something in that category. Yeah, about a few $100,000.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the contract was negotiated with that in mind. It's not like a terribly outrageous series of numbers. This is just this made sense pre-suspension. It means there's not a lot of money to be gained for the Chiefs. Might make sense post-suspension. If some of that base salary next year is like almost $7 million, to where he would be losing $500,000 per game, essentially, as opposed to losing like $100,000 per game, or even less than that, really, with only having $1,080,000 when that's divided between 18 game checks. Next year's cap number is a little over $11 million. It's that about $6.7 million base salary again. That would have actually created some cap space.
Yeah. Of course, they could also move on from Omenihu after this year and save $7 million roughly in cap space if they end up doing that. But that's sort of the salary cap implication from Charles Omenihu. The actual on-field implication and effect is that they won't have him the first 6 weeks of the season. They'll be playing Detroit, Jacksonville, Chicago, the Jets, the Vikings, and the Denver Broncos. Maybe the last one, not as big of a deal. Maybe Chicago at home, not as big of a deal. But Detroit is a really good offense and is a team that can pass the ball, and it would be nice to put some pressure on Jared Goff. Jacksonville, we know that they can certainly pass the ball. Be nice to put some pressure on Trevor Lawrence. We know that the New York Jets are going to be able to pass the ball. It would be nice to be able to put some pressure on Aaron Rodgers. I have some real serious questions and doubts about the Jets' offensive line as to how good they're going to be this year. So
it would be nice to test that theory.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
That's going to be one of the weaknesses of that team, is that offensive line, and especially if they can't stay healthy, which they typically don't. Then, if you're not there or have a good enough defensive line to take advantage of that, then it doesn't really matter. They can hit you with all of the strengths that they have. And then, of course, Minnesota, when they've got Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and Hawkinson, that they've got some pass catchers. They've got some guys that can be difference makers there. And then Denver with Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. So it is an impact for this Chiefs team. I don't know if Carlos Dunlap or Melvin Ingram or something like that is going to be part of the plan for the Chiefs. Get something done with Chris Jones, then sign one of those guys. But this is around the time when some of those veterans are signing, because we saw Justin Houston and Yannick Ngakoue both sign this weekend, and Kareem Hunt is, in New Orleans visiting with them to see about their running back situation with Alvin Kamara, who's suspended 3 games. So we'll find out. But the Chiefs don't have a lot of wiggle room until they wiggle their way to a contract extension with Chris Jones.
And it's just hard to imagine right now them going into the season with just George Karlaftis, FAU, Mike Dana, essentially as your 1, 2, 3. And then it's rookies and unknowns even beyond FAU. Like, I like the profile of B.J. Thompson. This show loves Truman Jones, undrafted free agent out of Harvard. I like Malik Herring. I really do. But I don't want the Chiefs to have to depend on those guys for 6 weeks. It feels like there's another move coming, but I just saw our friend Kent Swanson tweet out, if the Chiefs make a restructuring of a contract to free up cap space for a defensive end signing, that doesn't bode very well for a Chris Jones contract. So keep something else in mind there as the defensive line comes together.
Yeah, I like some of those guys. I like Malik Herring, but what dose am I getting Malik Herring in?
Exactly.
That's the big question.
I'd like to microdose Malik Herring.
That's right. Ari Timken next.
Hey, this is SSJ for Window Nation. Feeling the heat? High temps aren't the only thing getting you hot under the collar.
Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe and Drake heading up until 2 o'clock. We will talk with Mick Schaefer at 1 o'clock, KSHB 41 Sports Director. He's there in St. Joe as Chiefs continue their training camp game week, wrapping up practice earlier today. We heard from Andy Reid, Isaiah Pacheco, Trent McDuffie, and also Tommy Townsend there in St. Joe. They get ready for the Saints on Sunday. Right now, let's talk some college athletics, some realignment, some other things as well. Who knows what will come up in the conversation that we have with Ari Temkin, Sirius XM College Sports and Big 12. Ari, welcome into the conversation. Welcome to the show, bud. How are you?
Doing great. How are you guys?
I am doing just fine. I feel like the last time we talked, the college football and college athletics landscape was completely different, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation when Hawaii is in the Big East.
My favorite discussion was when the Pac-12 and the ACC were talking about some sort of merger, because I didn't know if they knew that those are two different oceans, and so yeah, I mean,
I hope that the Pacific and the Atlantic do not merge. Let me just say that is a hope that I think a lot of people on this side of the planet should hope for.
There would have been nothing funnier for Oregon to be playing Washington in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
That is exactly right. And now it's like Stanford is talking about maybe going to the Atlantic Conference, the ACC, and those 4 remaining schools. And there was also a report that maybe the Pac-12 had reached out to the Big 12 earlier last week about, hey, would you like to take all of us, except for Oregon State and Washington State? But the other 7 are really excited to go to the Big 12. We just don't want those guys with us. This whole thing last week was really crazy, and last week felt like it was 6 days that played out of what felt like was 13 months when we had that conference realignment back in 2010 and 2011.
Yeah, it was crazy, and to your point, you know, when you're hosting on Big 12 radio, you know, you're trying to talk about football. I mean, you guys have the Chiefs to be talking about and break down training camp, and you know, we had last week the start of fall camps, and yet all we could talk about was the latest updates on conference realignment, which then reached ahead on Friday when this was all playing out live on our show, and it was crazy because you start the day, and on Friday it's like, this thing's over. Like I had friends and people that are like, hey, what's going to happen in the Pac-12? It's like, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention, but when the Pac-12 met with when George Kliavkoff met with member institutions on Tuesday of last week and presented their media rights deal, all we heard after that was, $20 million, it's Apple, and Oregon and Washington are now talking to the Big Ten, and Arizona is now re-engaged with the Big 12, and Florida State is losing their mind. So if you read the tea leaves, what happened is none of those member institutions, of course, liked the deal, and so they all were looking for their lifeboats out, and Florida State threw a hissy fit because they realized, holy hell, we're on the same plane now as the Big 12, and we don't like that at all. And so on Friday, you go in with the approach of, like, this thing's over, and the Big 12 is about to take over the other Pac-12 schools. And then in the middle of the show, reports came out that a grant of rights might be signed by all the Pac-12 members. And so it threw a complete wrench into everything we've been talking about. Oh, and by the way, we then had Baylor's president, Linda Livingstone, who is basically the head of the commissioner, the head of the Big 12 and the Board of Regents, and now working with the NCAA, and we're trying to ask her about what's going on, and she didn't really want to talk about it, of course. And then, you know, all's well that ends well, because we found out that Oregon was essentially negotiated with the Big Ten through the media on Friday as they tried to get the best deal that they possibly could get. So you're right. It's crazy how much has changed since the last time we talked, and I'm afraid of how much is going to change the next time we talk.
Yeah, we went on the air on Friday at 10 o'clock Central Time, and they had met – the Pac-12 teams did at 9 o'clock Central Time to come together for this grant of rights, this 11th hour. The Big Ten and Washington and Oregon, the momentum had slowed. And by the time we were off the air, Oregon and Washington was in the Big Ten. Arizona State, and Utah were then going to complete their bids for the Big 12. It was like, hold on. The Pac-12 was being saved with this 11th hour grant of rights to now there's, you know, we were talking about maybe being a Big Four conference. Like there are conferences that's the Big Four right now, and then there's the Big Four in the Pac-12 only with those 4 schools that are remaining. Like that Friday was just nuts. And it's also like, you know, what a difference a year makes, Ari, that, this time last year when Oklahoma and Texas were heading to the SEC, and I've talked about this a number of times, that we were on the air live when that news broke, and the guy I was doing the show with was an Oklahoma State grad, and, his whole demeanor was just, depressed, and just like the wind had been taken out of the sails, and he's like, this sucks, man. I'm tired of being a team that continues to get overlooked and got to worry about what's next and what conference we may be playing in, and just, now not even going to be with Oklahoma, and who knows what the Big 12 is going to be, and the Pac-12 is going to start picking teams off. He's like, this sucks, man. I'm tired of it. And so that was a year ago, Ari, to now a year later, the Big 12 are the big dogs that are going and doing that to the Pac-12. It's just unbelievable what we've seen with this conference, and Brett Yormark, what he's done in over a year, that it felt like the Big 12 was falling apart to now the Big 12 seems to be pretty strong.
Yeah, it really is remarkable what's changed in that short period of time. I mean, look, I think from a fan base perspective, if you're a K-State fan, if you're a Kansas fan, if you're an Oklahoma State fan, if you're an Iowa State fan, we feel what Oregon State and Washington State are going through right now, because we felt like that was the inevitability for us.
Yeah.
And it was this endless loop of, you don't matter.
Yep.
You know what? It's great that Texas and Oklahoma left, because those other programs were being carried by Texas and OU. They don't matter. I mean, that was what Big 12 country heard.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, it's sort of amazing, because I'd argue that hubris killed the Pac-12 more than anything else. Because in those few days following Oklahoma and Texas defecting, the Pac-12 could have raided the Big 12. The Pac-12 could have ended it. They could have taken Oklahoma State and Kansas and whoever else they wanted, but they didn't, because you're not good enough for us.
Yeah.
Oh, we're aligned geographically and academically, like we're some Neanderthals in the middle of the country, and it's like, wait a minute, what about Arizona? Like, this is the Ivy League of the West Coast. What are we talking about here? So, there is a feeling from the Big 12, a sadness, especially for Oregon State and Washington State, because we knew how close we were to having that happen to us, and how tough it feels to have every fan base across the country saying you don't matter. But this is a zero-sum game here, and the Pac-12 messed up in every capacity whatsoever. They blew a 28-3 halftime lead like the Atlanta Falcons, and that's why the Big 12 is in this position that it's in.
And now some Pac-12 teams might have to play in Atlanta. So this is weird, that a conference game. And it's like, somebody's like, Rutgers and Oregon is a conference game, and Oregon State is not. Did you tweet that out? I think that was, I saw that tweet that, I think it was you, that's like, Oregon and Oregon State, not a conference game. Oregon and Rutgers, conference game.
Well, and that's the part of this that sucks, right? Because both of these things can be true. We could be happy the Big 12 won here to a degree and survived and is still alive and thriving, while simultaneously realizing, we've been losing the regional aspect of this sport, and it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, long term, college football is going to be fine, and I understand that there are a lot of fans that are taken, that are turned off by this. But once the games start here in a few weeks, we're going to forget about it. And you know what? Next year we're going to have some really good matchups that we'll salivate over. I mean, the television networks know what kind of games we want to consume, but it sucks. We used to have Kansas, Missouri every year. We used to have Oklahoma, Oklahoma State every year. We used to have Texas, Texas A&M every year. We used to have Texas, Oklahoma every year, and Oregon, Oregon State, and Washington. And those games matter regionally. They matter to the people in Kansas City, because there are Mizzou fans and KU fans and K-State fans everywhere, and Iowa State fans everywhere. And that's the part of this that's being lost. West Virginia has been a member of the Big 12, but their fans don't care about playing in Lubbock, Texas. They don't. They care about playing Pitt and Penn State and Virginia Tech. Those are games that you just know. But just talking to the people that operate the 247 sports sites over there, or the rival sites over there, they see it, the traffic when they play a Penn State, when they play a Pitt, so much larger when they play Texas, when they play Texas Tech. So that stuff does matter. We've already seen it matter, and it's only going more and more in the other direction, obviously.
Ari Temkin's our guest. The hubris part, I think, is a really interesting point, because the Pac-12, on multiple occasions, has had a chance to sort of end the Big 12. And obviously I'm glad that they did not, as someone who grew up in the area, the Big 8, and then the Big 12. And, I haven't been a fan of the conference realignment. I've talked about that. My preference would have been for everything to stay the same in the Big 12 the way that it was. But reality, and there's, you can't, simply just, yell at clouds constantly. So you gotta evolve and things like that. But the Pac-12, when that was going on, had a chance to take Texas, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, and Texas Tech. And they decided that the Longhorn Network was not something that would be viable for the Pac-12. It did not align with what they viewed their third-tier rights. And so they said, you know what, we're fine. We're good, and we think realignment is done for a long time. And, we may be open to expanding at some other point, but right now we're good. They could have ended the Big 12 then. And then you're right, when Oklahoma and Texas left, they could have reached out to Kansas, Kansas State, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and said, do you guys want to join? And those guys, those teams, I think, would have immediately left. The way that Arizona State, the teams are like, okay, this is falling apart. We've got to find a place to where we can find shelter. And that didn't happen. And then also the 11th hour attempt at the grant of rights, USC and UCLA left for the Big Ten a year ago. And all of a sudden, the day that of Washington and Oregon might leave for the Big Ten, they decide, hey, let's get together and try to offer a grant of rights. I mean, at that point, wouldn't you have got together and said, hey, let's work together right now? Where can we go moving forward? We lost USC and UCLA, but we're still the Pac-12. We're still going to be aligned in these different ways. What can we do? Who can we look at? Who can we add? And how can we make sure that we're all in this together and nobody's going to be, looking elsewhere? But they have had misstep after misstep, and it sucks for those fans. But it also shows you the value of the leadership and the foresight of having somebody in charge of a conference that sort of can read the tea leaves and see which way the wind is blowing and be able to understand, what the future is going to be.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the couple of years that George Kliavkoff was leading the Pac-12 versus Brett Yormark in the Big 12. Like, I'm going to do this, check. I'm going to do this, check. I'm going to do this, check. George Kliavkoff's still stuck on one. Getting that TV deal done. A couple of things on hubris. Number one, it's sort of amazing that they still, though they've been defeated, right, to a certain degree, you're still seeing this. The comments that were made by Arizona State with Michael Crow and Ray Anderson talking about, I don't want to go to Morgantown. I'm not going to Morgantown. And even Utah, we had a Utah reporter on this morning, and they're like, this is not a happy day for Utah. And it's like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you guys. Yeah. Either you can go to the Mountain West or figure out what happened to the Pac-12, but, this should be a very good day for you. Utah in particular, you guys were in the Mountain West making a third of the money you're going to be making right now with the Big 12. You got a great landing spot. What are you talking about? You're also back in a conference now, in a Power 5 conference at BYU that's going to put the Holy War on a whole nother level. It's really weird how you, hubris in many ways took down your conference, and yet you still – haven't put your ego to the side to be like, you know what, we should be happy we're here because the alternative is way worse. And we're still hearing that, discourse come out of those two communities in particular, Utah and Arizona State, despite, again, okay, go to Mountain West, go to the Pac-12. The Big 12 will be fine. We're happy to take those brands on, and there's good football being played. But at the end of the day, you're here is a positive thing for everybody involved, and especially for your university. In terms of that television deal, and this is kind of the most amazing part, and maybe the biggest, tick on George Kliavkoff, an indictment on him. But you lost all of these schools, and aside from USC, UCLA, they're getting between $30 and $35 million in TV rights money. Oregon and Washington are taking that reduced amount to join the Big Ten, and they're going to be at about $35 million. So, I mean, the conference was evaluated. Member institutions were evaluated at $30 to $35 million per school. They're all getting it now, with the exception of Oregon State, Washington State, and you couldn't get that deal done?
Yeah. The view of sort of, Utah and we don't want to go here, or bad day, or Arizona State, we don't want to go to Morgantown. I think that's where a lot of Big 12 fans are. You feel bad for some fans, like you talked about, Oregon State, Washington State, Stanford, Cal, whatever, the teams that are being left out. You feel bad for those fans, but for so long, the Big 12 was just looked down on. The Big 12 was just like, oh, they'll eventually fall apart. The Big Four, the four conferences that are always going to be there, SEC, Big 10, ACC, and the Pac-12. And the Big 12 is fighting a two-front war, and they are toast. That they're getting picked apart from the East. They'll get picked apart from the West. And people didn't really care. Like like you talked about, it was KU, K-State, Iowa State. Oh, they don't matter. Oklahoma, Texas, these teams that everybody wants, those are the ones that are going to be driving this whole thing. Those are the teams in the Big 12 that really matter. And I think there's an element of, finally, whether it be fans or maybe even schools in the Big 12 of, yeah, it may suck for you guys in the Pac-12, and I get that. But it's about damn time that there is some respect for what goes on in the Big 12 of for so long just being viewed as the fifth of five and the stepbrother, the stepchild, not good enough, and you're only there because of a couple of schools. That now they're the team that's going out and pushing their weight around, and so there's an element of sort of like vindication probably isn't the right word, but validation maybe of what the Big 12 schools are and what they mean and what they should mean on the national front.
Yeah, no, well said. Because you hear a lot of discussion around oh, you know what, the Big 12 got in front of the Pac-12 and stole their TV rights deal, and then there was no money left. Right, and we know, you've got networks crying poor. They're trying to manage all the your relationships they have, and everything else. And people pay for what they want. ESPN laid off a bunch of people and then paid millions of dollars to hire Pat McAfee. Right, so it wasn't like, well, we could hire McAfee, but we can't because we just laid off a bunch of people and we're not going to do that. No, they did it because they're going to pay for what they want. If the SEC rights were up, ESPN is not going to, be outbid for SEC rights, right? They're going to pay for what they want. People don't care about Pac-12 football in the same way they care about Big 12 football, and that's the truth. If the Pac-12 had gotten a deal done before the Big 12 may still have been able to get a deal done. But the opposite is true now because why would you need the Pac-12 when those eyeballs are already going to be on the other conferences and have been? People talk all the time about there's so many things to do in California. Well, that's the reason they didn't get a deal done. Yeah. Because those time windows are not great if that's the only window that you have, and nobody cares about watching your football games. Football fans will, and deep-seated college football fans will, but they're not going to care about you when you're gone, and that's what happened here. Nobody cares about Pac-12 football. And
right.
So those time windows are good to have, like where the Big 12 is, where you have multiple windows over multiple time periods. Yeah. That's where you want to be, and with fans that care about the sport itself. And that's what the Big 12 has. Yeah.
I mean, you've got the 4 time zones that the Big 12 is going to be a part of. Ari Timken is our guest. Can we'll see what goes on with the ACC and Florida State, and they're upset about all of that, as you mentioned, that seeing what everybody else is getting. But can the Big 12 be the third best conference behind the SEC and the Big 10, whether that be football or just overall athletics? Because basketball is going to be pretty stellar with the Big 12. But can they be viewed as the third best conference and adding these 4 teams to go along with adding Houston, BYU, Cincinnati, UCF, and then the teams that were already still in the Big 12?
Look, I absolutely believe that to be the case. And this is a league of parity, and so I think we're going to see even more parity again this year. And I don't expect that will end next year. And we'll see if Utah can win a third straight Pac-12 championship heading in and out of the Big 12. What that looks like in terms of competitiveness. The Big 12 on the field is as good as anybody. I mean, really the SEC, and perhaps not even just the SEC, but like Georgia's the one example of this where you can say, okay, they're not really in the same category as them, but nobody else is. I think people sort of misplace the idea of the SEC for Georgia and Alabama. That's it. Those two have dominated the sport. We're entering into an area here where Georgia is going for a third consecutive national championship. It's never been done before. I mean, it was done by Minnesota in the 30s. But there was a certain sect of people in America that couldn't play the game in the 30s, so it's hard to even count those. So this is the first time ever that a team's going for 3 consecutive national championships. So they're in a stratosphere unto themselves. Now there's this second category, if you will, like a second tier, and this is where the people that recruit at the highest level are viewed as the biggest brands that can win national championships. So you can stick Florida State in that conversation, right? It's the Bud Elliott 24/7, blue chip ratio, which says that over the last 3 recruiting cycles, you have to have 50% of your recruits be 4 stars or higher to win a national championship. And every team in the modern era that's done it, that's won, has that. But there have been teams, TCU last year and teams before, that broke through to get to the title game without being there. So I understand that point, and I understand the sentiment. And I'm not going to disagree with it. Like, more talent and better players equals winning. That's not the most novel concept in the world. But I do think that this conference has to have consistent programs competing in terms of recruiting for it to really be the best version of itself, because that's where we notate brand and importance and hierarchy and sticking them in conversations where we think that they can win. Now, either that or somebody's got to win a national championship from this conference. And again, just knowing where the SEC and Georgia in particular are today, that's just a hard thing to come to grips with, is can that actually happen? But I don't think that's again, I think this has been played more out as a Big 12 problem than it is a college football problem. Everybody else is so far behind Georgia, it appears, that it to me, it's just not about, the Big 12 is far behind. It's Georgia, Alabama, and Ohio State in terms of recruiting on a completely different stratosphere as everybody else. It's not just a Big 12 problem. But returning to your question, the ACC, certainly from a brand standpoint, stands out head and shoulders above the Big 12, as much as that means anything. But, they're locked in a really, really, really bad deal. And it took $50 million for Texas and Oklahoma apiece to get out of the same grant of rights 1 year earlier. I have an 8-year-old son. He is going to be graduating. He'll be graduated high school and off to college by the time the ACC's deal is done, okay? The Big 12 gets to cash in again before then. So I don't know who's in the position. We're going to be in a situation where we're going to have 3 power conferences. And so it's a battle now between the Big 12 and the ACC. And we're going to hear a lot about merging. There's no merging. Somebody has to win. There has to be a centralized power within these conferences. So it's a zero-sum game again. And so I guess we'll see if the Big 12 can out-duel the ACC. And Brett Yormark, having him in your corner is certainly something you like to see. But, yeah, I definitely see a situation in the future where these 2 conferences become one, and we're looking at 3 power, 3 conferences.
Yeah, my son is 7, so I have no idea what conferences will look like when our kids are in college. So,
but that
no
TV
clue.
deal will still be going for the ACC, Jason.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yes, they'll still be there. There might be one conference outside of it might be a Power 2, one huge centralized conference, and then the ACC. Like, hey, we're here. We're still a part of the playoff, but I have no idea, no idea what it's going to look like. Yeah.
2036.
Oh my goodness,
so
man.
long away.
I can't have you on and let you go without asking about what in the hell's going on with your White Sox right now. Besides winning 2 of 3, but man, they took it on the chin this week. And oh yeah, what is going on with them?
It's brutal. Yeah, it is not fun at all. In fact, I wait all year for my White Sox to be down here in Dallas to see them, and I go and they lose 11-1. So that was a fun ride. It's just a really bad organization at this point from the top down, and they don't spend any money. They operate the White Sox like a small market team, and so they spent more money than they've ever spent in their entire franchise's history on Andrew Benintendi, which isn't Benintendi's fault. He's a $90 million guy. He got paid what the market bears. Obviously the White Sox and Royals have not had great seasons, but at least the Royals will have a better draft pick from it.
We'll see. Ari Temkin, Sirius XM College Sports, the Big 12. Ari, you're the man. Really appreciate the time as always. And our next conversation, we'll see where these teams are.
Yeah, take care, guys. Appreciate it. Be well. Thanks.
Absolutely. There's Ari Temkin. Great stuff. Love talking with him. And honestly, I have no idea where these teams will be in the conferences the next time we talk. I'd have to go back and look at the last time we had him on. I don't remember the date. It was like a few weeks ago that we had him on. And I know we were talking about the Big 12 Media Days and Big 12 Conference Preseason Player of the Year. And he was the one that picked Oklahoma State to win the Big 12. That conversation. That was a few weeks ago, and at that point, there wasn't a whole lot of talk about the Big 12 adding all of these other extra schools and everything. Colorado wasn't in the Big 12 at that point, right? Because
I guess not.
Big 12 Media Days we had talked about. Yeah. Brett Yormark would love to get up there and announce that Colorado is part of the Big 12.
It was July 17th that we had him on last. Whole lot's happened in that little window.
A lot has taken place since then, so... man, it's been absolutely nuts. It's been crazy. Friday was unbelievable how crazy that day was. So, man. And by the way, that was 3 weeks ago is when TJ Altimore was feeling just great about life, about how good everything was in the Pac-12, about how awful people in the Big 12 were and how dumb people in the Big 12 were. And he called them the Big 12 Anon or something like that, the Big 12 Karens, things like that anybody in the Big 12 that thought that a Pac-12 school would go to the Big 12, and said that anybody that was saying that was a liar. And anybody in the media, boy, he took some runs at Dennis Dodd, saying that Dennis Dodd was the mouthpiece for the Big 12 presidents, and he's lying to you. He wouldn't really say he would just say, hold the people that are liars responsible for lying to you.
How does he feel about that now?
I haven't seen
holding
him,
liars responsible.
Haven't seen him weigh in on, totally missed that, guys. My bad. I've been wrong for a year, and I've been clowning on the Big 12 and saying that the Pac-12 looks down on the Big 12, and there is no team that would go to the Big 12. His tweets throughout the last year. I hope that their fans enjoyed the last few months, because the Big 12's fake sources are going to be mocked for many years, and they're not going to like being the butt of the rest of the sporting world's jokes. Laughing emoji. This one, Mark Harlan, who is the athletic director at Utah, I think, talks about the narrative surrounding the Pac-12 and the Pac-12 and the current members. Says the really bad week for the fake news trolls gets even worse. Great interview with Utah's AD, reiterating the false info being put out there was nonsense. Big 12 fans deserve better than to be lied to. Arizona drops more dynamite. All the fools who continued to pretend that the Big 12 Conference was not paying Big 12 Karen and endeavor to fill the 12 Anon crowd's heads with nonsense and lies can line up to apologize now. Listen to the CEOs and this is what's great. The athletic directors and presidents were the ones talking, and he kept saying, see, this is what they're saying. Listen to the CEOs and ADs, not the liars and the clickbait reporters who spout nonsense. There have been no discussions with the Big 12 Conference on moving, Arizona State President Crow said. Nobody was ever going to go from the Pac-12 to the Big 12. People who said they would or might were lying to you.
The Mark Harlan tweet, he is the AD at Utah, quote tweeting Dennis Dodd back on March 9th when Dennis tweeted, Big 12 readies to pounce on Four Corners schools as doubt creeps in about Pac-12's viability. Mark Harlan just hit that baby with a quote tweet. That quote tweet read nothing but, give me a break.
Tony Altimore replied and said, once again, nobody's going from the Pac to the Big 12, and they never were. Every single school is on record, and the below should be utterly humiliating for CBS and Endeavor, where Big 12 Karen keeps lying to the public. Kudos to Utah and Pac leaders for repeating it. No means no. At what point will these folks understand that no Pac-12 teams have any intention of joining them? Utah, Arizona, Colorado have been very public about their commitment to the Pac-12 and non-interest in Big 12. Dr. Crow from Arizona State, God love him, might nearly rather join Big West than the Big 12. Somebody replied and said, saved. He goes, please do. Please spread around. One of the great difficulties for so many Big 12 fans right now is that influencers within its fans community flat out lie to them for clicks. This Arizona State to Big 12 stuff is nonsense. We all know Arizona State fairly openly thinks that conference has leprosy.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but they won't be making much less. Also, Arizona State dwarfs all Big 12 members of the 12 in terms of its academic budget and research spend. They are inextricably linked to the state of California and have no interest in trading that for the Southern Plains. This guy was spot on. Also, this one. Are these the same sources who told them Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State had any interest in the Big 12? Pretty sure I've heard those sources nonsense before. Tonight was humiliating for the Big 12. It's time for them to stop pushing this nonsense. The fans deserve better. I just love that he specifically said Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State. That's just mwah. For a year, this guy was clowning the Big 12, looking down on the Big 12 and acting like it was so inferior to the Pac-12 that no Pac-12 team would ever even think about joining the Big 12. And Dennis Dodd was flat out lying for clicks and called him Big 12 Karen and the 12 Anons, the people that actually believed the Big 12 could go and pick apart the Pac-12 now that USC and UCLA was going. This is the hubris. That guy is echoing the feeling all around the Pac-12. All around the Pac-12. The Big 12 is so much below us, nobody's going to leave for the Big 12. Idiots.
I just thought I'd check and see if Old Takes Exposed has just retired because the game's gotten too easy or not.
I mean, good night.
I did see them retweet this one here. This is from a John Canzano. He does radio in Oregon, and he tweeted out a blog or a column that he had written. This is Big 12 threat has dried up. One Pac-12 AD called it, quote, laughable.
Yeah.
That tweet was from Thursday. August 3rd. Whoa, 2022, he's saved. Oh, God, he's saved. Hold on.
There you go. He is saved.
He is actually saved. I got gaslit by Old Takes Exposed. This guy, at this point, if your take is a year old in college realignment, it's not nearly as funny.
Not exactly wrong. Not like this guy who, as of last week, was still saying that Big 12 folks, told you that ain't nobody going to the Big 12. Pac-12, Pac-12, pack this, pack that. How about this? Pack your bags, buddy.
Or
you're gonna have to travel to the Big 12 country, to the plain lands.
Or this tweet from 2019 that says, "Never let them knock you off your pivot. #stand up." That was from Tim Anderson.
All right. White Sox have been taking it on the chin, even though they won 2 of 3 against the Guardians.
Yeah, White Sox.
That's right. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
You know, on Friday, we were out at Greenlight Dispensary. They have the Underground event that first Friday and Saturday of every month. I know now you're a full month away from the next one, but as we've determined, a month goes by pretty quick when you're going by at least the football calendar, and certainly when you're going by the college sports calendar. But Greenlight Dispensary, the Underground, was great. I have a whole bunch of things that I could give you, all the little tidbits of that, but I told you about that last week. The good news is Greenlight Dispensary has this incredible selection all across their stores, all across the Kansas City area. They got 4 KC area locations, and they've been voted Missouri's best dispensary numerous times by the people of Missouri, and for good and obvious reason. They always have both the incredible, selection of all these different brands that were there at the Underground. The thing that makes that special is they have people from those brands, extra special prices, and extra, selections that may be getting debuted there. But Greenlight always has selections from a whole bunch of Missouri's best brands. And you can go check it out online and browse the menu yourself if you'd like at greenlightdispensary.com. Or you can browse in person. Ask the bud tenders what's right for you. That has always been an incredibly important part of the Greenlight experience, is to be able to ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question as you're figuring out what you might want to do next in your marijuana journey. So you figure out what's right for you, what interests you, and also never hurt me once to say, excuse me, what is this exactly? The bud tenders at Greenlight will be able to answer all your questions and get you the absolute best product in the state. That's at Greenlight Dispensary. You can order online and check them all out at greenlightdispensary.com.
With water quality making the news more than ever,
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. We continue on this Monday edition of the show. 913-912-4810 is the text line. 913-912-4810, the text line to be a part of the show, part of the conversation. Text said, sorry, just got in the car. Did not hear who was clowning on the Big 12. Missed the beginning. A guy named TJ Altimore. So yeah, go and check that out if you want to. Eli Drinkwitz was at the podium and weighing in on, after being asked the question about the conference realignment and everything, which has gotten quite the reaction from Eli Drinkwitz. Let's go ahead and hear Eli Drinkwitz weighing in on conference realignment. He started off with a joke. It was off the mic. It was very low, so did not include it here, but said, well, I thought that the transfer portal window was closed. I thought that was closed, and this is where he picks it up.
Oh, that's just for the student athletes. The adults in the room get to do whatever they want, apparently. And it's, it's just sad that there's, look, my question is, did we count the cost? I'm not talking about a financial cost. I'm talking about, did we count the cost for the student athletes involved in this decision? What cost is it to those student athletes? We're talking about a football decision. They based off football. But what about softball and baseball who have to travel cross country? Do we ask about the cost to them? Do we know what the number one indicator of symptom of or cause of mental health is? It's lack of rest and sleep. Traveling in those baseball, softball games, those people, they travel commercial. They get done playing at 4. They got to go to the airport. They come back. It's 3 or 4 in the morning. They got to go to class. I mean, did we ask any of them? Are we going to look back? I don't worry at all about the game. The game is going to be strong. Football is going to be fine. We'll all figure it out. But did we consider the people that we are entrusted with? Did we consider the student athlete? Because then we're asking them to go out on their own to get NIL. We didn't say we're going to revenue share. We're not saying they're getting a piece of it. So that's the thing that's bothering me right now in this whole situation is we keep trying to limit what the student athlete can do, but then we act on our own. And everybody's got their own reasons, and I'm not questioning any of those. I'm saying as a collective group, have we asked ourselves, what's it going to cost the student athletes? I saw on Twitter several student athletes talking about one of the reasons they chose their school was so that their parents didn't have to travel. They chose a local school so that they could be regionally associated so their parents could watch them play and not have to travel. Did we ask them if they wanted to travel from the East Coast to the West Coast? Man, I love the game, but every game that I coach, I look up in the stands and find my family. I make sure they can play. I make sure they can be there because that's what I'm doing this for. And you're talking about volleyball, baseball, softball, track. I mean, all those other sports, man, they're not fortunate to travel like the way we do. Football will be fine. Football will be fine. It's still we count the cost of the collateral damage of everybody else. I don't know. Only time will tell, but that is my biggest, looking at it going 24 hours after, say, did we really think about that? I don't think we did.
All right, so there's Eli Drinkwitz comments that have made its way around the country and certainly locally here. If you changed from Eli Drinkwitz to another coach, did he say anything in there that was controversial or people really disagree with and think is just like how could a coach say this about whatever it might be? Him talking about the transfer portal, making the joke there. I appreciate trying to keep it lighthearted there with that. And asking, did we think of the collateral damage outside of just football when we're doing this NIL? We want the kids, we want to restrict them, but then the adults want to be able to do whatever they want, and make whatever is in the best decision for them and make money and all of that stuff. But we're restricting what the players can do. The travel sucks, and you're talking about different non-revenue sports. If you make it independent of the messenger, is anything that he was saying that controversial and for people to disagree with his points on some of the conference realignment stuff.
Even being the messenger, I'm surprised that got the reaction that it did.
Oh, I'm not surprised at
I
all.
honestly and foolishly, shame on me, but honestly, I am surprised and a little disappointed and a little frustrated that in that 2.5 minutes, some people had the wherewithal to go, well, yeah, but I mean, he coaches at a school that left a conference one time. Like that to me is such an incredible example of your own frustrations overshadowing what feels like a 2.5 minute long, perfectly sermon-ready message about, have we considered baseball, softball, and volleyball, what this is going to do for all of them? The answer, of course, is no. Of course the answer is no. The question is, where is football going to make us the most money, and can we keep men's basketball rolling? That is generally how these decisions have gotten made, and it has a ton of impact for everybody else. That, how dare he consider how other people are being impacted by these football decisions? Weird thing to be mad at.
He's at a point to where, whatever he says, people are going to view it one way or another. Sure. He's given us more quotes than wins across the nation for people that have listened to Eli Drinkwitz. I just like the part about, well, he's representing a school that switched conferences. There's about 15 layers to that. Yeah. One of them is he's talking about travel, and Missouri left to go to the SEC, where the travel is essentially still bordering schools. And so it's, he's representing Missouri. Right, but he wasn't there when that happened. He wasn't at Missouri when that happened. And conference athletics are just one big hypocrisy. Yeah. Like, across the board, it's one big hypocrisy. And to me, like, for any school really anywhere, like if it's a Big 12 school or a Big 12 fan, if it, let's say Iowa State, KU, K-State, whatever, to be like, well, he can't deliver that message because Missouri left. Okay, well, then you can't then agree or disagree or say anything about conference realignment because you're a fan of a conference that gave the death knell to the Southwest Conference. You took Texas and Texas A&M and Baylor and Tech. You did that right. The Big 12 did that, okay. Were people crying about, what was left over with TCU and Rice and SMU and those teams? I don't remember that being the case. People may not have wanted to add them, but you weren't feeling bad for the smaller ones. Did you feel bad for the AAC when you took their conferences? Do you feel bad now when you're taking Arizona State? No, because you're in the catbird. You got the bully pulpit. You are on the right side of conference realignment right now. Everything is hypocritical. Well, Missouri was a team that left. I saw this one. Well, Missouri started this whole thing. Did they? Missouri started conference realignment? Did they? It's weird because, Arkansas did leave for the SEC, and we've seen Boston College and Miami and those teams all leave conferences in the Big East and things like that. And, oh, by the way, West Virginia in the Big East, certainly that helped dissolve that football conference. I would say that the team that started the whole geography doesn't matter would be USC and UCLA. That's when it started. The geography and travel is immaterial to anything else going on in the country.
And land the messenger thing here. If that clip was from Lincoln Riley, who is, I think, fairly the face of this version of transferring. I'm actually going to I misspoke. But we're going to say transferring because the teams are transferring. If he was the face of it, if everything that Eli Drinkwitz said there was said by Lincoln Riley, do you know what I would say? Wow. That's a good point. I'm glad he's saying that. It can be hypocritical, and he can say, hey, we are incredibly fortunate that our football team gets to fly private. But that's not true for the rest of for these softball and volleyball and baseball players who are not being able to travel in that same quality. That is going to be worse for their quality of life. And as Drinkwitz talked about, I think it might have been Oregon softball players. I can't remember exactly who was doing the most of the tweeting that he was talking about. But the idea of I went to school here so I could play games in this area so it's easier for my parents to come see me more often is a very human thing to want if you're a kid in college that wants to play games where your parents can come and see you. If Brett Yormark was going through that entire process, if any of the conference presidents or some of the university presidents or the ADs, there are people I would not want to hear that from. But this isn't Eli Drinkwitz's fault. I don't give a bleep about like Mizzou.
Mark that.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll say it again. I don't the banner waving and all the grudge holding and all of that. Like I am a pretty equal opportunity sort of. The annoyances seep in from all collegiate fan bases for me, and so I'm not like here to protect the Mizzou shield. This is a very reasonable human thing for Eli to be worried about or talking about in that position and say, man, I'm just, college football will be fine, as he says. He's not saying, oh, this is making my job harder. This is going to make Mizzou football worse. College football's not going to survive this. He said, college football's going to be fine, but I feel for the people who will be impacted by this the most. Why is that? Why is he not allowed to express that? I just think that is incredibly small-minded.
Yeah, we'll take a break. Lane Kiffin said that, the NIL stuff and transfer portal, that's what's going to kill college athletics. And I think
he can go bleep himself.
Right, and that's the point that Eli's making is football's going to be fine. All this stuff's going to be fine. All the adults get to make all these rules, but we want to restrict the players. Like, the game's going to be fine with the NIL and the transfer stuff. We'll take a timeout. More Zone next.
Take the show with you by listening live on 810WHB.com.
Mick Schaefer's camping in St. Joe right now. More of a glamping guy,
Seemed like
I would guess.
Can we tell the story of the text thread this morning?
Sure.
Since you mentioned it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Mick texted us, said, hey, I'm going camping today, so I'll be on the phone at 1 o'clock.
I remember that.
I typed into my text response in the group chat with the three of us. I said, let me go ahead and grab it here. I said, at worst, you're Monday glamping. But I never sent that text. It just sat in my messages.
I've done that before.
You've done it often enough that I knew you'd be the one person who would believe
I totally
me.
appreciate that, yeah.
Because I had that typed at 7:15. I checked my phone again later, and Jason has responded, you seem more like a glamping guy. And I think for a brief second, like, oh, okay, we're just doing a glamping bit. Like, all right, we're all just glamping is the word of the day. No, my text was never sent. It was still sitting there. And so Jason and I have independently come to terms with the fact that Mick Schaefer is a glamping guy, if there ever was a glamping guy. And I say this as a fellow glamper.
Yeah, and then I offered back the one of the most well-known sayings, he who hesitates, contemplates. Isn't that what they say?
I think that's what they say.
Yeah, that's what. Let me look it up.
I don't want to... I'm not
going to look it up, actually. We'll do some Learn Funniest Best with Mick Schaefer.
I'm not a big camper. This is the camp I prefer, I guess.
I hate camping. I hate camping. I don't understand how that's vacation. Oh, we're taking some time to go sleep out on the ground.
Yeah.
In the heat.
Yeah.
And eat stuff that's not refrigerated, or I can't just make in a microwave, or I can't heat up, and I don't have any guaranteed foods with me.
Honey, what do you want to do this weekend? What if we lower our quality of life?
What if we go back in time and see what life was like before we made all of these amazing things to make our life better? What if we took away our TV, our comfort, air conditioning or heat, whatever it is, ease of food, entertainment for the kids so they would get out of my hair? And maybe we get eaten by a bear. Maybe we do that. I don't know. Should we do that? Sounds like a blast. Let's go and do that. Great. You know, and I'm going to, next weekend we can tightrope walk between two buildings just for the heck of it. Sounds fun.
Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway has Kansas City's only sports book. Bet on your favorite Kansas City sports teams while playing the newest slot machines, doubling down on the hottest table games, or indulging in amazing food options. Barstool Sportsbook and Hollywood Casino at Kansas Speedway.
free time, free delivery, and better value. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Josh Briscoe, and Drake. Mick Schaefer not answering. Now, was Mick Schaefer saying I'll be camping at St. Joe later today, so I won't be able to join the show tonight, later today at 1 o'clock? Or was he just saying, hey, I won't be there in studio? Because he's not answering the phone right now.
I think he's currently plugging in his electric campfire. I don't know if he knows how this works.
The phone is ringing right now, so does he think he has to actually be in a tent if he's up there camping?
I would like that. I think that would add, audio-wise, it might get a little worse, but we had a lot of ambiance of,
No, I totally agree.
Getting a little bit of that echo in there.
It's just cooking some, heating up some beans on an open fire.
In the can.
Yes.
In the can they came in.
Roasting a pig because he caught one.
That's incredible.
Killed it.
Hungry Pig Camp.
Speaking of camp, our training camp coverage is presented by Barstool Sportsbook at Hollywood Casino, Bud Light, Greengrass Cattle Company, and Premier Volvo Cars of Overland Park. You can bet on whether or not you will survive. You can have some Bud Light while you're there. Greengrass Cattle Company will be able to feed you, and Premier Volvo Cars drives you to where you will then just live outside for days. Makes no sense. Why don't you just get in that Volvo and drive back home?
That's what I would do personally.
Comfortable. Mick Schaefer is our guest. Mick, how was your weekend on the river?
It was good. You can be the judge whether I was camping or glamping, but the cabin we stayed in had 6 bedrooms, 2 showers, 2 toilets, a gigantic kitchen, a big patio, a balcony with a view.
Yeah,
where does that fall? Is that camping or glamping?
That's glamping. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I always think of camping, and maybe it's my own novice definition because I don't like camping. I always think of camping as you've got to pitch the tent. And you're there, and you're sleeping on the ground, not in a nice bed, unless it's maybe a blow-up mattress. But even then, it's like, come on, a blow-up mattress.
Some assembly required.
Yeah, that's right. That's what I think of. Anything outside of that, like if you're staying in like a cabin where you've got a nice bed, especially a view, a bigger kitchen where you don't have to just roast or just cook the hot dogs by sticking the stick on the actual dog or anything. I don't know. I've got a very old school, I guess, view of camping. As you see, I don't camp, so I don't even know what it's like. Maybe that's not what camping is, Mick. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I stayed in a cabin, but I pitched a lot of tents.
I could see that one coming from unfortunately far away.
Well, that's how the
story,
tent got pitched.
Uh-huh.
So, did you guys make some beans in an open fire? Anything like that?
No, we ordered in fajitas. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure we glamped.
All right. I'm going to say that's a 9.8 out of 10 on the glamping scale. You saved 0.2% by leaving your manservant at home.
It's weird. My wife and I, we also had fajitas in the comfort of our own home and the air conditioning, where we were able to just hang out and watch some TV, go for a walk if we wanted to, but then also come right back home and enjoy, whether it be the couch, our bed. We also had fajitas. So sort of the same weekend, Mick, you and I.
Well, you didn't get the experience of getting to float down the Elk River for 7 hours in pea water, right? With probably a lot of meth heads. I don't know. Probably though.
Probably.
And the smell of the state flower of Missouri, all 7 hours, infiltrating your nose is great.
I actually don't know what that is. What is it?
It's a joke.
Marijuana.
Yeah, it's
son of a
flower. Yeah,
go ahead and mark
flower.
that for
sure.
The daisy. It's a daisy. No,
daisy. If you do, you're no Huckleberry. So that's the state flower. That makes sense because at the draft it was the flower of the draft. It was the smell of the draft. Whereas my son kept asking, "Did somebody fart?"
Somebody farted. Yes.
Somebody farted. Daddy, somebody farted again. Yep, a lot of farting going on around here. People just farting around. That's what that
smell me
is.
state.
Because they're eating beans on the fire.
I think I've float tripped out though. I think I've hit my max age for float tripping. That might just be done.
Oh, permanently?
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I don't say no to stuff, so I'd do it again. But like everybody's kind of sore and sick, and I don't know, kind of reflecting on like, what are we doing with our lives here at this point?
Yeah, this will surprise some people, but not a fan of float trips. No, thank you. I don't know that I'll ever need to go on one ever
again. You'd have to be outside,
That's
Jason, for a float trip. So yeah.
Yeah, got to be outside in the heat. No, thank you. I can't hang out in just like sitting in like a raft, getting out of the raft to go to the bathroom, then getting back in or whatever you guys, I don't know, just.
You can go to the bathroom at any point.
Yeah, Mick, have you ever in your life gotten out of a body of water to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, he's doing it right now.
What's that?
Have you ever in your life gotten out of a body of water to go to the bathroom?
It's a great point. I don't pee in pools. I promise you, I do not.
Oh, that's good.
Pee in pools.
That's good. Yeah, my kids don't either, so you got that in common with them. So good. You've advanced past 5-year-olds.
Well,
but you
rivers,
do pee in rivers.
Lakes, oceans, yes.
Yes. Elk River, like, especially if you see a bunch of people in front of you on this raft, on this float trip, you know that where you're at getting out, that might have been the same spot. Or even a bunch of people behind you because, you're downriver.
Yeah. Well, there were thousands of people on the river when we were. Like, if I look forward, I could see at any time hundreds of people. Look back, hundreds of people.
Yeah. No,
big river, big float.
Yeah, I really enjoyed being at home in the air conditioning and doing really whatever I want.
Not touching anyone else's urine.
I'm a doer. I do stuff.
I know that's awesome. That's awesome. You are that. You do not lack for life experiences and doing stuff out on the weekends. That you and I understand that I am falling well short in that, and I'm perfectly fine with that. It's just something I've accepted in my life that I'm a city slicker, and give me the concrete jungle.
Yeah, we blow it out. We make we have T-shirts every year, right?
Yes,
there's planning parties. There are arrangements of like, okay, who's sleeping with who, all that stuff.
Whoa, what?
I thought that was just like
I drew my wife again.
That sucks. How disappointed were you?
I know. Like, are you rigging this?
No,
spin the
Mick,
bottle. Why
Mick,
is it?
there's no chance she's rigging that.
Yeah, she's asking the same thing.
Are you rigging this? No, I swear it just happened to be. I hate this. It's 5 years in a row on the float trip. Get a hall pass and nothing every time.
Well, you know this
Can't
about
even
Mick.
Pitch a tent.
Mick, when you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound. So I'm glad you got to enjoy Piss River.
I don't know what that means, but that sounds like a great analogy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an analogy of it's what the Brits use that one.
Yeah,
because we don't need pounds.
Pound, but it was mostly a urine joke. You're in. It's
Oh,
okay.
yeah.
That's all right. It was.
It's fine. You're in St. Joe right now, where the Chiefs are. I don't know. Are they glamping? It's training camp.
No, they're not.
You know what?
They're not glamping.
They're training camp. They're camping it where training camp for these other teams, they are glamping it. You're right. The Chiefs are not glamping right now. That's true. But the weather hasn't been terrible, though.
What's that?
I said, but the weather hasn't been terrible. It was for a few days, like the first week, but then last week it was certainly sticky. But even like the rain was helping it cool off a little bit. Today wasn't too bad being up there, so it certainly could be a whole lot worse for the Chiefs this training camp.
Right, we've taken things down a notch as far as temperature goes. We're going to this week to be all mid-80s, and this morning it was cool and overcast. I had my long pants on, so that was nice. It was nice. We weren't sweating through our shirts, and I imagine the Chiefs really appreciated that out there because they were back in the pads. They had a full practice till about 11 o'clock or so in Camp Andy, which we're not sure if it's ever going to end. It's just we just keep going with it.
Camp Andy never ends. It'll end 10 days from now. It's the 17th when they break camp in St. Joe.
Yes, after it'll be 30 days from the 18th of July to the 17th of August.
30 days living in the dorm. Man, I remember those days. Yeah, I mean, some people had back-to-back semesters.
You were literally in these same dorms, right?
I was for the first semester. Yeah, I don't know if they are in the dorms. That I don't know. I'm not sure.
I feel like these are newer than you. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely newer than me. So I think they've been redone since I was born. But they are
newer than your college years.
Certainly newer than what would have been the fall of 99 there in St. Joe. Yeah, for those 3 months.
What did you take with you to make the dorm feel more like home?
Memories.
Oh.
Pictures. the love in my heart from my family.
Obviously, a
He's there
mattress
every
topper.
night.
I'm not an idiot.
The egg crate, mattress topper, duh. Oatmeal. I mean, come on, man. My Nintendo 64. I didn't have one. My friends had one, so we played Bond with them. So that was cool.
GoldenEye?
Yeah, that's all we played was GoldenEye. I mean, which I was terrible at and I hated because I had a friend that was awesome at GoldenEye, and anytime we would play, I would die, and then it takes a little bit for you to come back to life, and he would immediately run to where you were getting ready to come back to life
that's
because
the worst.
he knew exactly where everything was.
He was
and it's
spawn camping?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Was he playing his Odd Job?
Yeah, I'm like, this is dumb.
If he was Odd Job, you get vindicated decades after the fact because Odd Job is overpowered in that game.
Yeah,
I think you might be in the clear here.
And then getting some money for some dorm room friends for typing up their papers, which was perfectly fine to do that. So
yeah, that's not a problem.
No.
But the spawn camping thing pisses me off.
Yeah, so I just watch them play Bond because I'm like, I suck at it, so there's no use in me playing because I'm just going to go over here and go camping. So went on some float trips and stuff. Yeah, maybe.
Who'd you play as in GoldenEye, Mick?
Mick, would you when you were GoldenEye? Who'd you play with?
I play Golden Tee. It's a different letter farther down the alphabet.
Makes total sense. Makes total sense. Yes. What did you take to your dorm when you went there to make life better for you?
Nudie Max and a smile. That's it.
There you go. That's right. That's how you get through your freshman year. You made it, though. We all made it.
I'm so old there wasn't internet back then, boy.
It was dial up. You're just waiting half the picture. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Having to deal with the floppy disk all the time.
Is mag short for something?
Magazines.
What's a magazine?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trying to make you feel old
it's
again.
something you see on online.
Yeah, I've seen some of those in old movies.
Are you going down to New Orleans, Mick?
No, we will have representation there
Okay.
as in somebody covering the game for us with a camera, and then getting post game for us because we'll have a pre-game and a post game show
Yep.
on Sunday, an hour long each, before and after. Pre and post is what that means. The game starts at noon on KSHB. So I will not be there, and I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, that's as you should. You should be totally fine with that. I will say, though, that, I haven't made it up to camp this year. I don't know that I'm going to, especially when I'm on the air during camp.
It started day on Friday. If you're going to pick a day, that might be the day.
Okay.
And I believe that's Hawaiian Shirt Day, too.
So feel free to wear your Hawaiian shirt on that day. So, if I'm up there, like, I would have to choose a day with full pads. Like, now that they've got full pads on, because it just feels like it's a different practice when the full pads are there and there's some 11 on 11. Like, there's so much more. Like, at the beginning, right, everybody's excited to be up there, so you don't care if they're in shells or not. You're just seeing Chiefs players running around with a Chiefs helmet on and playing football, and you can watch it there in person. But as the days go on, you're like, you know what? I want to see, pads on. I want to see 11 on 11. Like, I feel like there's so much more to glean from that rather than some shells and just wearing a helmet and stuff like that, these practices, when you've got full pads in there as long as they were today, those are the days that I would want to be up there and checking out practice.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. I find now nobody's ever taken anybody to the ground. There's you'll pop them up top, right, when the defense to the offense, and the offense is going to withstand the hit and carry it all the way in the end zone, right? So, but for me, the best part of the pads is when you got the linemen going one-on-one, right? Defensive linemen against offensive linemen, and they're lined up at their positions, so the DNs going up against the tackles, the interior guys are going up against each other. That's always fun. You can glean a lot, I think, from that. Problem is they have pushed that to the far side of the field every single day. They have not been close to the media tent, which is where all the cameras were. And now last year we showed Orlando Brown getting beat by, I think, Mike Dana like a drum. I think we showed it like 1,000 times, and I'm sure we weren't the only station. So I'm wondering if that's why they keep the one-on-one lineman drills all the way down on the other end. But as a fan, you're welcome to go over there and watch them. And it's that's because that's full on. It's 100%, right? It's you got the pads on, and it's man against man. Who can beat who, and who's maybe the better at their position at this point in camp. That's always fun for me.
Visiting with Mick Schaefer. He is hanging out in St. Joe with the Chiefs training camp. Andy Reid talked today, Mick, and said that they weren't sure about the number of games for Charles Omenihu, how many he would be suspended for. It's 6, but he said we knew it would be something. So it's not a surprise that he is suspended. I don't know if it's a surprise that he got 6 games or not. That's the starting point for domestic violence allegations and the investigation that's done by the NFL. So starting at 6, and they went with 6, it can, different mitigating circumstances that can take it up or down. But this was expected to some degree. And I do want, like we talked about this in the first hour, Mick, like if this was expected to some degree, which I think it was, how much really does that make a difference at all with the Chris Jones or any defensive linemen that might be free agents right now, because they would have already had this information while they're going through these negotiations with Chris Jones?
Yeah, they would have, absolutely. And I think it matters all across the line, right, who's not there, and then just deal with FAU and how late of a start he got to this offseason, and them, him maybe being thrown in the fire a little bit earlier, at least getting maybe some more reps and more snaps than they would have wanted at this point. The good thing is at end there seems to be depth there, and to where I think they can survive this. I'm like you. I wasn't quite expecting 6 games, but that's where they're at. And yeah, without Chris Jones there, who's the guy that can step out and play in, they're probably trying a lot of new things, a lot of different things without Omenihu. And I mean, he kind of figured to be at least in that that 3-man rotation of a defensive end. Yeah. And so it's going to change things. But yeah, Chris Jones, you're feeling it throughout, and you could probably say there's ripple effects not just on the defensive line, but throughout the defense for him not being here.
I wonder too, like, do they approach training camp the rest of the way the exact same with Omenihu, or it's like, look, you're going to be out for 6 weeks. We got to get ready for the guys that are going to be here on this team. And I know you can still go through training camp. You can still play in the preseason games and be around. But Felix is going to play. So he's got to, we're just going to put him into the water. We'll put him into the river on this float trip, and we'll see if you go pee or not, sink or swim with your pee or not. And, we've got Mike Dana. It's Malik Herring that offers some versatility on inside and outside that can move around and things like that. I do wonder if, when they have the ones, the good on good, if Omenihu's out there with the ones constantly, or do they start looking ahead to those first 6 games where he's not going to be there and getting guys that are going to be there up to speed rather than, well, this is what it would be if he was there week 1. Yeah, but he's not. He'll be there October 22nd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, with him in there, you have, 3 guys you're comfortable with running at him at end, right? Him and Karlaftis and Dana. And FAU is a nice, 4th piece. You can bring him along, and now is he that 3rd piece? Is it somebody else? I don't know, but I don't know if there's anybody else right now that they would feel comfortable in a regular season game throwing out there and being able to handle everything.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what they do moving forward. 913-912-4810. We're going to do some Learn Funniest Best, but Josh, you got to give a ring away for somebody. I think, I don't know, you've just been, you're married now, you've given rings away, and now you're just all about just everybody's getting a ring with you.
I love the rings. I love getting them. I love talking about them when they're from Ruback Fine Jewelry. You can schedule your appointment for their Everything Must Go sale before it's too late. Amazing deals, and the sale date here, August 21st through September 16th. So it's coming soon. You got a couple of weeks still. You can call 913-649-8811 or visit their website at Ruback, RUBACK.co, not .com, .co. You know what I'm going to give the ring to today?
Who?
Eli Drinkwitz.
What?
Eat it, everybody.
Why?
Eat it. Because I appreciated everything that he said in that clip that we played last hour. I think it is an important part of the conference realignment mess, and I don't think he's a bad messenger for it. He just works for a school that some people are still mad at. So I'm giving the ring to Eli Drinkwitz, and I don't care what you people think. I do care, though, that you go to Ruback Fine Jewelry. Once you've been to Ruback once, you're a customer for life. You can call or text Hal today about scheduling your appointment. Again, 913-649-8811 or visit their website at ruback.co.
Learn Funniest Best coming up next.
You're in the zone with Jason Anderson on Sports Radio 810 W.
All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Mick Schaefer hanging out. Oh, maybe we're hanging up on him. I don't know. He's still there. Hanging out in St. Joe as we are continuing rolling on this Monday edition. We get to Learn Funniest Best in here on this Monday. Learn Funniest Best is presented each and every Monday by Pyramid Roofing. For a free estimate, give them a call, 816-966-1101 or pyramidroofingkc.com. We go around the room /phone as to what we learned from the weekend, what the funniest from the weekend, and what the best from the weekend was. And I'm really looking forward to hearing Mick Schaefer's stories from what took place on this float trip in and out of said floating device. What I learned this weekend was actually something that I learned, like a skill. I learned how to make pocket holes in woodwork. In constructing like different wood. I'm building a step stool for my daughter for her bed. And in order to hide some of the holes or whatever it might be to make it look like a cleaner from the outside, there are pocket holes on the inside of some of these wood pieces. And I learned how to do that this weekend. So I actually learned a skill, which is good. So.
Pocket holes. So what's the explain like I'm an idiot real quick?
So if you're
pretend.
So if you're looking at like let's say you're looking at the back of a step stool,
sure,
it'll look clean in the side. But if you looked on the inside, there would be small little holes that are sort of like at an angle.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's in a pocket, so it's also hiding the screw as well.
Got it. Okay, now I can envision what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it's sort of like in a pocket.
Look at that.
A hole that's in a pocket. And what I'm putting together for, I salvaged the wood from an old Indian village in Nantucket. So it's probably going to be about 1,000 man-hours for me to be able to do this. So maybe one day.
Grace's their garden someday.
Yeah, at least that's my little dream. I don't know. I believe your people call it a hopa. Step stool. Josh, anything?
Just from that reference or my learned? Because no, I didn't know what that was from.
That would be,
I got your Tombstone one earlier, though.
Meet the Fockers.
Oh, whoa, I don't think you... Drake, dump that.
Meet the Parents.
You can't say that.
Oh, yeah, that was Meet the Parents. Yeah, Meet the Parents. But their last name is...
First one, guys.
It was the first one, but Meet the Parents, he was Focker. He was a male nurse. I don't know if you knew that or not.
I'm not sure you can say that word.
Yeah, it's his last name. Briscoe with an E, your turn.
Whoa! Hey! You little fucker.
No, my last name's Anderson.
You little Anderson.
There you go.
I learned, Sony Michel, you may have seen retired last week, but I learned over the weekend that Stetson Bennett and Sony Michel were on the same team together at Georgia. And Sony Michel retired, which means that Sony Michel was drafted in the first round, played for 4 different NFL teams, won 2 Super Bowls, and then retired all before Stetson Bennett was ever active for an NFL game.
Not even preseason.
Not even preseason.
Stetson Bennett's old or Sony Michel's young?
Sony Michel knew that as a young running back, you want to get your pro career going as quick as you can, make that money, and Stetson Bennett was having a really nice time in college.
Good for him, man. Yeah, that is really interesting, man. And there's somebody still in college probably that got there right before Stetson Bennett and is on their 8th year of eligibility with all the transfers and things like that.
Probably so.
Mick, what did you learn this weekend?
I learned about something you guys might already know about it. It's they have a World Cup for balloon games, and the biggest one is called Keepy Uppy.
Oh my goodness!
I love Keepy Uppy.
Keep up the balloon. It's 2 guys against each other, and the field is like a literal living room with nightstands and coffee tables and couches and chairs. You have to jump around to keep the balloon up in the air, and it is mesmerizing to watch.
I've seen a clip of this before. I didn't know that there was a full-on World Cup for it, though. I missed my calling. I just called it Keep Up the Balloon.
I don't know what's better, having a World Cup for balloons or the name of it, Keepy Uppy. That's pretty great.
I mean, my kids and I play Keepy Uppy all the time.
Played this constantly.
Seriously,
great.
I feel like I'd be pretty good at this. I've done a lot of practicing at home.
Yes.
Wow.
I think what this leads us to...
I honestly don't know how, if you have an athlete out there, how's it ever going to drop? Because you can't spike it down. You got to pop it up.
It could go on for hours.
Yeah.
I think this is just leading towards us bringing a balloon next time you're in studio here, Mick, because I've been training for this for like 20 years without even knowing it.
Keep it going for the entire hour?
I think we might be able to.
keep you
Definitely
up
for a segment.
to keep you up yet.
Could we? But the question would be, could we do not a great segment of radio because that's hard enough as it is, but if we could just do a competent segment of radio while also successfully playing a full round of Keep You Uppy, that would be a real achievement for us.
No, I think we could do that.
I think we could too.
No, I have no doubt in our ability and our skills to be able. Plus, we've got rolling chairs. These chairs roll.
Yeah.
It helps a little bit to be able to slide around. I often am moving the microphone around with me anyway.
And the headphone cords are really low, and I can yell. My voice is pretty loud.
And Drake loves when I'm moving the mic like this. In fact, he's getting
it's so
annoyed
good for
and
it.
mad right now.
It's so good for it.
I'm just making sure this thing doesn't you're supposed to move all of your body as you get older and you don't move your ligaments and joints stop working. I just want to make sure this thing is all working and everything. Still got the joints all
One of
working
these
there.
days, one of those springs is going to go, you're going to lose an eye, and I'm not going to feel bad about it.
You're going to feel a little bad.
If he loses an eye, if it cuts him on the eyebrow, I think you're in the clear. If he loses an eye.
Have a Band-Aid like Nelly just walking around. That'd be different. Lose an eye. Now, you'd feel a little bad if I lost an eye, right?
3 months ago, I would have felt a little bit.
If he looks like Nelly, don't feel bad. If he looks like Fetty Wap, feel bad.
Yeah, sure. That's fine. I'll take your word
Well,
for it.
I learned two things, so I will let you guys decide
Yes.
which one you want to find out about.
Oh, hell yeah.
I learned what Nabisco stands for.
Oh.
And I also learned about the 1855 riot that happened in Toronto between firefighters and circus clowns that originated at a brothel.
Yeah,
So which one you-
you had me at circus clowns and brothel.
Okay, so in 1855, Toronto had about 40,000 people in it. It's a bustling town. It was growing quickly. And they didn't have municipal fire departments then. It was one of those deals where it was these companies of firefighters, and they would show up, and whoever got there first got to put out the fire and got paid, right? So these firefighters are visiting their favorite brothel when some American circus clowns show up there,
Frickin' Americans.
and they didn't want to wait in line, so they started a fight with the firefighters, and the clowns won.
Yeah.
So
they just kept coming out of the car, and more and more clowns just kept showing up.
But the firefighters were a member of a political gang called the Orange something or other.
That's actually the name, Orange something or other.
The Oranges. So the next day at the circus, the firefighters, with all their firefighter brethren and other members of this political gang, showed up. Now, the police had heard about it and heard there was going to be a riot, but they were also members of the Oranges, so they didn't. So they didn't come out, and there ended up being a huge fight. And basically, the city of Toronto tore into this circus and pretty much ended it. And Nabisco stands for National Biscuit Company.
Oh, I thought you said Ma Briscoe. What does Ma Briscoe stand for? And I'm like, I already know that. It's love.
That's what it stands for. I'm just picturing these clowns at the circus trying to fight, like somebody doing mime, and like, ooh, just a facial expression. A guy runs over with a bucket to throw water on somebody. It's just confetti. Damn it! We are so screwed. He goes to hit him with like a pipe, but it's just like this floppy. Oh no. The only thing he has is the flower that squirts water at the guy.
Thinking about.
That's all he can protect himself with.
It's also really hard to put out fires that way, so they needed the firefighters.
Also, like the clowns, you would think, because there would just be so many of them. You just pull up in one car, and it was one car full. We thought we were fighting. There were 30 of them. Had no idea this was going to happen.
Got the numbers there. I really think that should have worked out better for the clowns.
Yes.
All they wanted to do was get their horn honked.
They should have just visited a different brothel.
Makes sense to me.
Damn Americans. It's like, hey, what do we do in town? Well, this is our favorite brothel over there. Plus, there's a steakhouse right around the corner, so you can sort of do both. What's the funniest for you from the weekend, Josh?
I have one episode remaining in the first season of The Righteous Gemstones. Renee and I have been cruising through that. It has been tremendous. Without any significant spoilers, I'll just say the last thing that we have seen so far is someone got shot in the butt.
Well, was it damp?
And just so you know exactly where we are, this show is tremendous. And I can't say anything else about it because I think that being on the roller coaster is actually part of it. They've done some smart things as a TV show, and it is genuinely just hysterical.
Yep, it is.
I think you're about to get to the episode where
come
Judy
on.
Lee makes her epic plea to get back DJ inside of an Outback Steakhouse.
Yes.
Which
Okay.
is maybe the greatest scene of television and or movie I've ever seen.
Snail trails. All right.
I was damp.
Mick, what was the funniest for you from the weekend?
The tweet from BYU Athletics toward Utah this weekend. And, of course, another one of the greatest scenes ever. I believe it was from The Office. I believe it was from the Michael Scott paper company when they approached their old bosses inside Dunder Mifflin. And Michael Scott said, "My, how the turntables
have."
That's it.
And then he stopped.
He messed up his big mic drop moment. My, how the turntables. And they had that at Utah, which, of course, had been back on the Big 12 and hates BYU. I have a feeling Utah and BYU might get into the Big 12 and look at KU and Mizzou's rivalry, which is based on a war, like, of men, and just be like, scoff at it because they have a holy war.
Yeah.
Biblical or Book of Mormonical or whatever.
No, that's
it's gonna be that's gonna be a fun rivalry, hatred to watch.
Oh, it's great. It's It's one of the more historical Big 12 rivalries ever. BYU Utah goes back
Alex
in the
Smith, Big
early
12 legend. Alex Smith now.
Yes, early 1900s, man.
Andy Reid, Big 12 legend, I guess, right?
That's right. Oh, nobody asked Andy Reid about. Well, I guess BYU's been in for a while, so I guess they. Oh yeah, that's right. They didn't just join. That's right. All right, Drake, the funniest for you?
I am endlessly amused by the story of former NFL linebacker Blake Martinez, who played for the Giants and the Packers. He walked away from his NFL career a little while ago to sell Pokemon cards online. Yeah. And he had a channel on this Whatnot or one of these other auction sites where they were opening packs like 20 hours a day live. And he is now in trouble for allegedly scamming buyers of his Pokemon cards. Walked away from his NFL career for that.
I knew about of course I knew about him retiring and going into Pokemon full time. Of course that was something I knew about. This scandalous turn though. Oh God, I'm gonna have to.
So how was he scamming people? Was he selling them different cards than they actually received and keeping?
I don't know that I understand the hobby enough to really explain it.
It would probably be either that if he was selling individual cards, they could have been fraudulent, or if he was selling packs, he could have been opening and like resealing them. But I'm not 100% sure. I'm on it.
Allegedly.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. Allegedly. Thank you, Drake. My funniest from the weekend. My funniest is a little matchup of baseball that took place on the diamond between the Guardians and the White Sox. And Tim Anderson probably should have been guarding his face a little bit more as the White Sox continued to take one on the chin. But the best/funniest was Tom Hammond, the voice of the Cleveland Guardians, and his radio description of what was happening.
And another hustle double. Right over the bag at first. Now Hosey and Anderson square off. They're fighting. They're swinging. Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson. And Tim Anderson was on the wrong side of that punch.
That was great. The boxing call that we can keep around here for a while. Down goes Anderson.
Down goes Anderson. Down goes Anderson.
He called it like an actual fight with they're throwing punches. And boy, Tim Anderson caught one to the jaw.
The umpire backed up and went into full boxing ref mode.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, no, get back off.
Like, break him up, break him up.
Go for it.
Now go. Ready to go. Let's get it on. And I thought it was odd that he dropped that one, too. But yeah, he actually told them above the waist, keep your hands up at all times.
It was really unnecessary when he dropped.
Can't be saved by the bell.
When he dropped to the dirt and started going 1, 2, like that felt like over the top to me.
Yeah, because it was over Tim Anderson when he did that.
Yes,
like Tim Anderson was laying there.
They put the pitch clock on at that point. Count it down to see if it's going to be a knockout.
15-second pitch clock for a knockout. I did enjoy Tim Anderson that when he got up and he was sort of being held up by one of the assistant coaches, and he was also sort of half-heartedly like, no, let me get over there, as he was sort of leaning one way because he's still losing his balance, and the coach was holding him up, not really holding him back, but he was like, no, let me get over there. And yeah, it's better. So where are we again? What are we doing? But he did go on a Twitter rampage. He did swing away on Twitter. X. He was posting and reposting and tweeting all day. He was not happy about that. The White Sox did, though, take the game Saturday and Sunday from the Guardians. So I guess they got the last laugh.
I don't know that anyone's laughing.
I was
on the White Sox
I
side.
didn't mind seeing Tim Anderson go down.
Yeah, I was laughing when that happened. And
one of his tweets here
Tom
is,
Hammond.
Hope you picking up what I'm putting down too. I mean, what you put down was yourself.
Yeah, that's
and you got picked up. So maybe he's just appreciative.
You know what?
Maybe he's thanking his coach.
Or you're picking up if you're picking up what Jose put down, then that's what happened. His coach picked him up. So
it's a good coach right there, good friend.
People have told me that they're like, I want to hear Denny Matthews make that call. I'm like, I don't know that. I don't know. I don't think Denny Matthews would like embrace it though.
Yeah, would he fully?
And there's Shaver checking base. Arguing. Tim Anderson did not get the better of him in that matchup. And they're being broken up now. So we will see when they finally get off. This game is now going to take an hour. We are going to be here for another hour and a half, folks. Thanks a lot, Tim. That's
good.
what I would imagine.
I had nothing to add because I thought you were
That's what I
nailing
would imagine Denny would do. What was the best? We'll start with you, Mick.
Look, I'm a Rougned Odor fan only for the fact that he clocked Jose Bautista that one time. So I'm gonna have to be a Jose Ramirez fan, I think now.
Yeah, I think I am
like
too.
700 against the Royals.
I know, yeah, but it's not his fault he's so good against the Royals. I shouldn't hate him because the Royals pitching sucks.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
All right, so what are we on? The best? The best for me was okay. Can you guess the historic landmark who made a tribute to Carl Rubens last week? Paul Rubens, who passed away.
No.
The Alamo.
The Alamo made a tribute to Paul Rubens, who, of course, was Pee-wee and Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
He goes to the Alamo, and they said every day since 1985, every single day, somebody has come into the Alamo and asked where the basement is.
That's awesome. You would not get any of that, Josh?
I don't, but it sounds like a touching tribute.
Oh, my gosh, Josh.
Sorry,
yes. Can we give him like a year's sabbatical?
I don't know.
Sure. All he does is just watch movies.
Deal.
Yeah.
If you're
Evidence Q.
If you want to pay for it or figure out how to do that, Mick, I'm down. I'll go through the entire sort of process of every movie and every TV show that I missed.
Big adventure.
You can figure out how to get those X's and O's crossed.
Big adventure.
I'm ready.
Rock that big adventure. What was the best for you, Drake?
My wife and my oldest son and I went out to the reopened Truman Library yesterday. It was fantastic. You know, it closed for a while they kind of did a remodel. They did an amazing job. It's great inside. A lot of the favorites are still there, but it's been very updated and new and great. But my favorite part was when I left, there was a little magnet board where people had written down some of the things that they learned from the museum, and some of them had written, now I know the whole story, or I didn't realize that Truman was such a great human being. But someone had written down, I didn't realize that Truman had bombed Japan. I thought it was Nixon, and that just as someone who's not quite a history buff, but that just blew me away.
About 20, 25 years there.
A little bit.
Just a little bit. I thought, did anybody write about the riot in Toronto?
No.
Firefighters and the clowns.
No.
I learned about a riot in 1855. Thank you, library. My best is, you know what? I'm going to go back through the tweets again. I had a couple of best, but this is one of my best. Was when the Big 12 officially, adding Arizona State, Colorado, we knew that one, and Utah. Just the Tony Altomare over the last 6, 7, 8 months, just of some tweets of him having some fun, or really just calling people liars and. 12-anon and the Big 12 Karen, who he was, I think that was Dennis Dodd is who he was saying was lying. So these tweets aged well. He has not yet come out and said, yeah, I blew it. Said, so sad that folks are still falling for clickbait. Big Ten is not expanding. People claiming otherwise are lying to you. Pac-12 teams are not moving, not to the Big 12, and especially or the Big Ten, especially not the Big 12. People claiming otherwise are lying to you. Ignore the nonsense. We've known it for months. Another one. Once again, no Pac teams are going to the Big 12. Yet another AD has spoken clearly. Hold clickbait nitwits and 12 and on trolls accountable for lying to you. They know better, and it's intentional. Sports fans deserve better than being lied to, but also need to stop being gullible. Once again, from yet another Pac-12 CEO, as we've truthfully told you for months, no teams are leaving the Pac-12 for the Big 12. None of them ever were or were ever close. Hold people accountable who are lying to you. They know better. Stop listening to fake news. It's been almost a year and nothing has changed. Big Ten isn't adding Washington and Oregon. No Pac-12 schools want to join the Big 12 and have repeatedly told you so. Ignore incessant fake Big 12 rumors. Not to overstate the obvious, but if anybody wanted to make a move, they would have last year. The only thing that can change the equation is Notre Dame. That's it. Of course, there's more. There's also the, once again, note that nobody from the Pac-12 wants to join the Big 12. None of them ever did. The people who kept pushing the nonsense either lied to you or repeated lies from others. It's long past time for Big 12 fans to move on. Once again, we've known since last year no Pac-12 school has any intention of joining the Big 12. Stop listening to 12 and on trolls and fake news clickbait. These are all different tweets.
From the same guy having a very normal one.
Same guy. Listening to Big 12 sources making up utter nonsense about Pac-12 institutions is beyond pathetic. You begged them to join, guys. Begged! But they're just not that into you. There's about 8 more that are there as well. Also, Trey Turner standing ovation. I just wish he would have got hot against another team besides the Royals and broke the 7-game winning streak. All right, Josh, best for you.
Got a music review. The Front Bottoms have a new album. Came out. Got to see them in concert a few days ago last week. That was a blast. But the album is called You Are Who You Hang Out With. If you like the Front Bottoms at all or just weird kind of alt music, this album is stupendous. The singles were all great. The rest of the album absolutely holds up. I feel like it's been a little bit since I had gone fully back into the Front Bottoms archives, did all that leading up to this record, and I'm very glad I did. Gonna give it a 9 out of 10. It's a point off because it's only 35 minutes, and usually I want 36. Usually I'm happy with that. In this case, I could have used 2 more songs. Great album. Happy with it.
We'll wrap up the show next.
Want to see more of The Zone? Watch the show live on the Sports Radio 810 WHB Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch.
Well, you know what I'm happy with, and that's the decision to get Guaranteed Foods in our life. You will be happy with that as well, the official sponsor of Family Mealtime since 1958. Give them a call today, 913-888-5000 to learn more. Or you can go to GuaranteedFoods.com and have them come out there and explain all of the different things that can separate Guaranteed Foods from any other place that you may be getting food from, whether that be the grocery store or some other food service providers, using air quotes there, because you're not going to get the nutrition, the health, the convenience, the time back that Guaranteed Foods provides with the Commercial Food Service Center, the heavy-duty Commercial Food Service Center, the food supply of 180-day food supply that's there with monthly investments that you get all of the things that come with what you would hope from a food service, but even better because you get time back in your life, and it's the highest quality of food. 600 restaurant-quality gourmet food products, including 100% all-natural meats, fruits, and vegetables, which is great for the kids that that you have out there that may want some fruits and vegetables. You want to make sure it's the best possible fruit you can get. The beef quality, legendary, high-yield beef, triple trimmed. There is, by the way, no water pumped into any of the meat, which I found out is a pretty big deal. So check out all of the different things. There's about 100 more things there at Guaranteed Foods that you can benefit from. Give them a call, 913-888-5000 to learn more. Go to GuaranteedFoods.com.
The choice of a lawyer is an important decision and should not be based solely upon advertisements. Compensated dramatization.
I called Mike and his team, and they got me 3 points.
That'll do it, Mick. Later. Probably should just let you go the previous segment. See you Wednesday, hopefully. Love you, love your show.
You gonna be here Wednesday, Mick?
No.
Good luck.
That'll do it. The program comes your way. We got a little best of coming up tonight at 6 o'clock. The program with Soren Petro and Curtis Seabolt got you for the next 4 hours. We will be back tomorrow where we will hang out with Adam Teicher and Les Norman will be with us as well.
Chiefs pressers?
Chiefs pressers, hopefully. We will be talking about the Chiefs or the Royals winning 8 of 10.
It was more fun when the streak was active, but that's never mind. That's better, actually.
Yeah, winning 8 of 10 is fun.
All right, don't drop this game, Royce.
Yeah. 8-10 on Thursday. It's game week, everybody. Game week. Enjoy it.